Can you hear me now? My name is Wayne. I'd like to introduce the candidates for Ward 14. Um, the host running around is Landon Johnston. We have Mrs. Erin
It's Averbukh.
Averbukh. And then we have Keener Hachey, pardon me, and finally Devin Elkin. Okay. And on that point, if you can hold your applause until after the candidates have finished, that would be appreciated, and we'll try to keep this moving smoothly. The debate will actually start at 1 o'clock. To fill the time, we're going to open up with some questions from the audience. Um, If you haven't already done so, there are cards at the back that you can fill out, submit them to me, and we'll try to get them in general order. So the first question is for all candidates. And once again, the speaking order was determined by the golf balls. And the order is Keener, Landon, Devin, and Erin. First question. How do you plan on lowering property taxes? The individual would like to see the city go back to the basics of what council is supposed to manage, and avoid making necessary cuts to existing programs.
You want to go first? You want to go, Mike? Yes. Yeah.
Very tricky stuff, huh?
Sorry, I'll need a repeat of the question, but first off, I want to establish something. We had agreed that this would start at 1 o'clock.
Come on, let's just go.
Oh, we did. Give me a second. You can hear me out. We had agreed that the debate would start at 1 o'clock. And, I was not informed that it was going to be starting at this time. So, and what I understood a little bit was the random questions would be coming from the audience, not from,
Those are from the audience. They wrote them at the back.
okay, all right, I apologize for that. This is Sunday, this is my church day. So, that cut into my church time to be here. I asked them if they wouldn't mind setting it at 1 o'clock, and they were in agreement with that, yet sent out invitations for people to come at noon. So I'm just asking you to bear with me, as I was not aware that it was going to be this much going on in this short a period of time, and it was going to start at 1 o'clock. So I apologize for that. And so I'm going to apologize as well to Wayne that I was not sure that he was asking the questions. I thought he was just doing this. So I would ask him if you could repeat the question so I could provide my answer.
I can do that. The question is, how do you plan on lowering property taxes? Falling back on the basics of what council is supposed to manage without making any unnecessary cuts to programs.
Correction, with making necessary cuts to programs, not without.
So you said with making?
Yeah, like I'd like to see cuts to programs, like if necessary, like I know everyone's talking about not making cuts, but I'm like, if it means lower property taxes and going back to basics for the city to like lower property taxes and really focus on like roads, infrastructure, things that the city should really be like focused on, not climate change.
Right.
Just
So
back to basics.
just so everybody heard, and I'm just going to reiterate what you're talking about there. You're asking the question that you're looking for clarification. I guess that was your question. She's saying, if we need to cut programs or services, where will we do that and how will we be willing to do that? And just continue to focus on our core essential services that are needed. Is that correct?
Correct, and lowering taxes, probably.
And in lowering taxes at the same time. Is that, okay. So, one of the reasons, probably the main reason I'm running is I got tired of yelling at the radio. Every time I heard things being like wasteful spending, giant blue rings, rebranding our city, things like that, they just annoy me. And I said, I'm going to run. And So, because I believe in respectfully using taxpayers' dollars and using them wisely. So if we would avoid, or if we could cut those things that are not essential, I think we could be lowering taxes like pronto. And anyway, that's my position on that. And I don't, do we have a time limit here, Wayne, or do I just get to ramble on for 40 minutes? Sorry? Oh, okay. I didn't have a timer, so I apologize for that as well. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. I think we could cut a lot of things. And I think there's a lot of efficiencies to be found. And overall in the city, you know, for example, I had, garbage truck moving in my back alley one of the collection days. My collection day was Tuesday. Let's just say, for instance, I can't remember exactly, but it was Tuesday and the truck's coming by on Monday. And I'm like, whoa, is my stuff out there? Oh yeah, okay, it's out there. It's great. Drove right past my stuff. So I ran out and I was like, kind of threw my arms out and I said, like, what's going on here? He picked up my neighbors, didn't pick up the next one, didn't pick up mine, picked up the next one. But our scheduled day was the next day. What's going on? So I mean, mine was out there, it was full. And so the next day I went out and looked and mine was empty. So did that truck actually come by a second time? To me, that's just, like, this is just waste, right? And wasteful stuff just burns my biscuits. So I guess I'll leave it at that. I'll give other people an opportunity to answer the question, unless they're getting a different question, I don't know, but I hope that's satisfactory.
Hello, my name is Landon Johnston. And again, welcome everybody that showed up today. This is our only chance to have a working forum. And we kind of had to do it ourselves. So you know what? That's good on us for showing up. Every other candidate was invited multiple times. Couldn't get a hold of them. Not one single answer from them. So this is who's going to be. This is who's going to be here tonight. So for lowering property taxes right now, I'll tell you right now, I paid property taxes as a personal and I pay business taxes, okay? And it's getting very hard for me to compete with other contractors who don't have the same licensing or same whatever that a licensed contractor will have in the city. So I'm at a disadvantage to trying to compete right now. So to lower property taxes, we have to cut the waste. And this city does a lot of things well, but right now, transparency and accountability is not one of them. And accountability to those taxes. We see it every day when we're going down, watching construction. We're seeing people rip up the same hole 2 or 3 times in parkland. We're seeing the repairs on roads being done 2 or 3 times. And sometimes the repairs worse than the actual pothole, right? If that were you or me going out to fix that job, you'd either not get paid for it or you'd have to go back and fix it, right? So if we rein in on the accountability of how our money's being spent right now, I'll tell you right now, we can lower taxes or at least get it down to inflation, right? So for me, we've got to find a way to bring accountability back to those taxes. And I think it's council's role, right? Look at the MTA's role of councilors. It's their job to be in charge of that budget, right? Yeah, we sign off on it. We send it back to the city administration. But after that, you know what? We just have a couple closed door meetings once a week. But we got to do better than that. Council's got to take over the survey engagement part of this city again, because people care about their money, right? And if we don't know how it's being spent, they're just going to keep getting away with spending more of it, right? So I want council to be more in charge. And if that means having the mayor delegate some sort of role for each council to oversee a section of the city administration, right? You don't have to be a professional transit driver, a professional transit worker to understand that a budget has to be accountable, right? And right now, we've got a city administration that's kind of running away with our money. And again, if we want to lower taxes, we've got to know how it's being spent. Because if you ask for a contract and you freedom of information, it comes back redacted. And I'm not okay with that. As a person who pays a lot of taxes, we have to be able to see how every single dollar is being spent. And if there's somebody within the city that's redacting it, and because they know they can get away with it, because it's almost a 2-year audit to get it unredacted, right? And so we've got to revamp our system to be more transparent. Otherwise, people are, how many people have we gone to door and said we're not voting because we don't trust the system anymore, right? And that's why, because they've been burned too many times in the past, right? A lot of councillors have made promises about accountability and transparency. And I think it was actually Peter DeMong who introduced the disclosure for council. And I think that was a huge step for us to see that council members have to be accountable for their decisions. So it's not, there's no conflict of interest, right? And I think we have to extend that to city employees who make $200,000 a year, because a lot of them are, let's say, on the receiving end, on some of the decisions they make, right? Right, and that's all accountable. That's how you lower taxes, on actually being transparent on it, right? You know, bacteria hate sunlight, so I think we've got to introduce some sort of trust back into the system, and that's how we lower taxes.
Good afternoon. My name is Devin Elkin. I see a lot of familiar faces out there and want to thank everybody for coming today. We don't always get to know who asked the question, so thanks for speaking up. Your question was really actually quite simple. We need to ask better questions when administration is putting together their budget process. I think sometimes the budget comes in and we don't ask enough of where that's going to go. So I think we need to ask, so for example, like Tourism Calgary or some of the stuff that when we give them that money, we need a bit more of a deeper dive into what that money is going to be spent on. One of the other things that we've actually done in the last 2 years, the snow and ice removal budget was broken up into 2 periods. So there's broken up at the end of the year, and then it's broken up into the beginning of the year. Problem that happens is sometimes you can have a mild fall like we have now, and you don't spend a lot of that snow and ice removal budget. Before that budget would go back into general revenue, one of the notices of motion that our office put together forward was to take that revenue, put it back into mobility and into roads so that they could do some extra projects that we hadn't accomplished throughout the year. So that's kind of one of those things where you ask about how can we manage it better? It's by making sure that the money that's allocated stays in that department. So.
I'm gonna do it this way. Okay, thanks. I'm Erin Averbukh. And I believe that the city of Calgary's budget has grown faster than the rate of inflation and our population. So coming from a corporate background, when we have to make cuts on a corporate level, it starts at the top. And so there would be efficiencies that are lacking that would require some retooling. So I would say from the city of Calgary's perspective, with looking at it as a councillor, I would also want to do a big dive into how administration manages our money. So from my end, the structure of the city of Calgary works like this. Administration reports to council and council reports to us, the people. Currently, the tail is wagging the dog. So much like what Landon said, there should be far more oversight with how the funds that are given to the administration are managed. And so if that looks like, you know what, we're gonna give you 6 months to get yourself sorted out and see if you can bring us some more shareholder value, then they get 6 months. And if they don't, we'll spend that 6 months finding people that will. So it's about efficiency. It's about finding ways to run this city leaner. There's an example of a guy that I know who phoned the city of Calgary and said, I have a dead tree in my yard. And he said it took them 6 weeks to come out, and 4 men stood there and looked at his tree for 15 minutes and came to the door and said, it's not dead enough. Don't cut it down. We'll give you a fine. That's not efficiency. It should not take 6 weeks, and it should not take 4 men. So cuts are not necessarily what we can look for or hope for, because I'm not sure if that's a realistic thing. But we absolutely need to have supported tax increases. Because I'll tell you, my 30% tax increase did not result in 30% better services. And neither did it not for you either. So that's kind of where I stand on taxes. So hopefully we get a management team, we get a council who has far more interest in having oversight in that budget. I believe that council should have more oversight to administration, and I also believe that Calgarians should get to have say as well. There's a lot of things that city of Calgary spends money on, and I think that a lot of us would probably say, no, I don't think that that's what we should be doing. So it's all about efficiency. It's all about managing the expectations of the people. And it's also about managing the expectations of administration. Because we shouldn't just be giving them a budget and then all of a sudden they go and spend it. And they're asking for forgiveness instead of permission on things and ways that they spend that budget. There should be thresholds of spending where council says, you know what? You need to come to us for anything over 2 million bucks, whatever, 5 million bucks. Come to council and get approval on those particular line items. So that's my answer about tax.
Okay, thank you. I think we have time for one more question from the audience. And I'm going to ask the candidates to limit their answer to 2 minutes, and then we'll proceed with the structure of the debate. This question I'm going to include because it's not really covered in the agenda that we had planned for today in regards to communication. I heard this come up earlier from a candidate, and the question is that the individual has called into Councillor DeMong's office but haven't heard back. One of the candidates stated that all calls would be returned or emails would be returned, and I'm wondering how you would accomplish that. Same speaking word.
Peter Hachey, again, I just wanted to make note that people that are just coming in, this is just a bit of an early question period. The actual debate will start at 1 o'clock, so don't feel that you missed out on a lot. Yeah, I think that communication is key, and we need to be able to communicate, and we need to be communicated to. I do, however, understand that perhaps some people have higher expectations on the level of communication, and I do thank Peter for he's up front here. I do thank Peter for all his work that he's done over the years, and I know that it's probably not an easy job, but I do think that it's proper to get back to people timely, and I do think it's sometimes it's difficult to answer difficult questions or awkward questions. I understand that, but I would do my best at least to acknowledge and not just say, we received your stuff, thanks, or we received your stuff. Can we sit down? Can we talk? Can we get more understanding of what your issue actually is or what your concern actually is? And perhaps we already have an answer for them. If it's an answer that's easily accomplished. And I think just being open and available to the constituents, because they're the ones that you are representing. Thank you.
Hi there. I'm just checking the 311 app here, okay? And it does give you an ID every time you submit a request. And I think the process should be, you go through 311 first, right? And I've been tossed around 311 trying to get permits with the city, trying to get inspections, and I know the frustration with 311. But outside of that, it actually does a pretty good job. Like, I can take a picture of a competitor sign on a median there, and the next day it goes through the process as green, as active, and then the next day it's closed because someone came and grabbed it. So I like the 311 app. Calgary does a very good job with that. It's not perfect, but I think you go through the 311 app, right, and you get an ID. Now, if you don't get an answer within the time frame that you think is appropriate, bring that ID to your counselor. That counselor now is in charge of that problem, okay? Whether it's sending an email, making phone calls, giving you information to help you with the getting to that answer, right? But it should be tracked, okay? And my thing, this is actually one of Erin's ideas as well, is setting up a web portal for Ward 14, okay? You sign on it, you see all the current bylaws being voted on, you get a voice on that bylaw, you click yes or no on it, and it's just a tool pouch for when that councillor goes to make a vote, okay? But on the other side of this web portal is going to track every single complaint or concern by a citizen, right? And it'll show you the email that was sent or the phone call that was made. So now you can see that your counselor is actually doing what they say they're doing, that your file is just not sitting on a desk, right? There's a big budget for each counselor's office, right? They can make this happen, right? I mean, ChatGPT can do just as good a job organizing that. So for me, being accountable for the concerns that you guys bring up is important to me because that's the role of a counselor, right? You have a problem, you go to your counselor, he fixes it, right? And sometimes that fix is working with you to ensure it happens. So I think we just got to be more transparent with it, build a bit of that trust back, have a web portal that allows you guys to see everything that's going on in Ward 14, right? We've kind of lost our voice at the table the last couple of years here. And I want to bring it back, and that's through engagement, right? We've got to get more people involved because municipal is what you see and feel every single day you leave your house. Okay, so for me, I want to bring that engagement back to it to a level that every other ward is going to replicate, okay? Because that's how it starts. Building trust back, okay? 2 minutes? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Having been somebody that's obviously been with Councillor DeMong for 10 years, I've got some pretty good experience with the question. Folks, if you're looking for somebody perfect, I'm not your guy. If you're looking for perfect, you know, we've got, we made that mistake 10 years ago, boss, sorry. Anyways, like, our team is very thorough as it relates to calls that come in. 311 requests, yes, sometimes we'll get those requests that come to our office once they haven't followed the natural process. But we have a callback list. We do the best that we can. Sometimes stuff gets missed. And when it gets missed, you call back to us and we will deal with it. To say that we will implement across the board 100% of all your calls is unrealistic. They have no idea what the expectation are, what the volume is that you'll receive. If you want to put on top of the existing 311 program, the counselor looking after every single 311 request as well, that is duplication. That is not efficiency. So we will always do our best. We'll admit when we're wrong. We'll make up for our mistakes and we'll move on the best way we can.
Okay, so I have a pretty firm belief that when your phone rings, you should answer it in a corporate world because you just never know who it is on the other side of that phone. Now, I understand that the 311 is, the first line of defense that any Calgarian's going to go to, and then they're going to end up possibly within the counselor's office. Another thing that I know is that companies are only as good as their people. And so it is the responsibility of a counselor to have a solid team of people that are there to field those calls. It is also the job of a counselor to remember that they are also part of that community. And so those calls that are coming in from people from the community, they all matter. And I get a lot of emails from people, I call them the political pulse checks. And they want to know kind of where I stand on this or that. I'm sure we all get them. The answer is it really doesn't matter who is asking for those questions or asking for those requests. Everybody deserves to be heard. Now, if it takes, like my friend, 6 weeks to get people to come out to look at his tree problem, I think that's a little bit long. And maybe, as Devin said, I might be wrong. There might be a lot more volume there that I am not aware of. But like I said, your responsibility is to make sure that you are backed by a team of people who have the same mandate as you do, who are an extension of you, people who also want to serve the community. Do I have more time?
Less than a minute there.
Oh, okay. So communication for me also is about that portal that Landon spoke about. It's actually my and my lovely assistant Rebecca's idea. And I'll speak more about that later in my opening. But it is about communication and it is about letting Calgarians know what's coming down the pipe at council meetings. Not everybody's going to go and read the agenda and not everybody's going to go back and read the minutes. But if you make it simple for people of Ward 14 to go to a website and in plain English, make sense of what they're going to vote on at council and give them the opportunity to chime in on that, people will go. And that's what communication is making things simple for people to understand. There's an example of something that just happened recently with Sonia Sharp filing a motion to rescind the climate emergency. And it's just a declaration and people were stressed. And I'm like, what's happening? Why did Peter DeMong vote for that? Well, guess what? I found out why. Because it's just a declaration. It signals money from the government, from the federal government, and it signals business into the city. It's a perfectly valid reason. But where's the communication into Calgarians to understand that? Because I didn't get that from Peter DeMong's office or from the city of Calgary. I got that from someone in the outside world, and I did my own research and said, oh, well then that's okay. I can live with that. Communicate, make people understand what they have, what the role of council is, and what those motions are that they're voting on. That's what communication is.
Okay, thank you. I'm really impressed with the turnout. I kind of knew we wouldn't have enough chairs, so thanks for your patience. And I also didn't see Councillor DeMonk arrive, so thanks for appearing. I remember you from the day from. Okay, so now we're going to proceed with structured debate. We had beginning with the introductory statements from each of the candidates for Ward 14. There will be limited to 2 minutes with their opening statement using the same speaking order.
One o'clock, right on time. Good afternoon, residents of Ward 14, and thank you for coming out today and participating in your democracy. Your engagement is what shapes the future of our neighborhoods and our city. My name is Hachey, and I'm running as your conservative choice for city councillor with a Better Calgary Party. I may not have decades of experience in City Hall like others, but that can be an advantage. I can bring a fresh perspective, strong attention to detail, and a commitment to practical, accountable leadership that focuses on results, not maintaining the status quo. For over a year, I've been working hard, talking to thousands of Ward 14 residents through door knocking, phone calls, community events, and listening to your concerns and making sure that my platform reflects your priorities. You've told me clearly what matters most: rising property taxes, inconsistent infrastructure maintenance, lack of transparency, and rezoning decisions that bypass community input. As your councillor, I will aggressively advocate for conservative solutions, putting infrastructure over ideology, fiscal responsibility, efficient government, and respect for taxpayers' money. I'll push for zero-based budgeting, apply city surpluses to the tax pool to create some deserved tax relief that we all need, and demand fairness and transparency in our assessments. I'll fight for timely, consistent maintenance of roads, sidewalks, parks, and utilities, and ensure that rezoning decisions are thoughtful, planned, and community-driven. I'll also bring leadership that is honest and fearless, someone who will ask the right questions so we can get the right answers, even when it's uncomfortable or unpopular. So Ward 14 deserves representation that's honest, accountable, precise, and guided by conservative values. And I ask both your trust and for your vote in this election so I can bring your priorities forward and work with the 13 other councillors and the mayor to make our neighborhood safer, our services stronger, and our great city more accountable. Together, we can make a better Calgary, leaner, stronger, and focused on what matters most. Leaner with Keener. Thanks.
All right, my name is Landon Johnston. I grew up in the Okanagan. And the same reason I moved to Alberta is probably the same reason a lot of other people did, the work and the women. Sorry. I've been married for 13 years, okay? I just had a new baby. She's 12 weeks old. And after 12 hours of door knocking, it's getting home to her, seeing a big smile on her face is why I'm doing this, okay? Because her future matters to me, and affordable, healthy future for her starts now. okay? Because I've seen the good, I've seen the bad in Calgary. And right now, I mean, the city can say we're the #1 city in North America or Canada, but I mean, it's the little things that are suffering right now. And for me, that's the engagement process in the city. Okay, I want to fix that, right? They did the blanket rezoning. They spent all that money listening to us, okay? And then they just pushed it through anyways. Okay, as somebody who pays a lot of taxes, I'm not okay because the next thing that they're gonna push through, they're gonna push it through regardless of what we say on it, okay? So we've got to rein in on that trust again, otherwise nothing else is ever gonna matter because they're just gonna do it anyways, okay? So for me, my biggest issue, and I'm an independent, so I didn't join a party, didn't see need for it right now, right? Roads, infrastructure, anything that's municipal related does not require to be left wing or right wing, okay? But I'm an independent fiscal conservative, so for me, we gotta rein in on the spending, right? But we gotta spend more responsibly if we do have to spend. And for me, I wanna protect seniors on fixed incomes, right? And they're the ones that suffer the most from tax increases. Their pensions do not go up with taxes, right? So for me, let's help the people that need help. And that's youth coming out of colleges right now. They can't get jobs. They can't afford a house right now, right? We just received $90 million for that blanket rezoning, right? Well, that money could have went to helping, younger people or people that are on that lower income side get into a house, right? We would have helped more people get into affordable housing by spending that money responsibly instead of blanket rezoning the whole city when more than half the city didn't want it, right? So for me, we gotta start spending more responsibly, spending less. And then not only that, we've gotta have a heritage fund in the city again, because the next water main break could put us into debt for the next 2 generations, right? So, yep, okay. There.
Can we get a 30-second, just so like, just a 30-second. So I know we're very good.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Devin Elkin, born and raised in Calgary. Was born in Queensland. Grew up in Woodbine. It's called Midnapore, home for 18 years, actually, almost up to the week here. During that time, I've served, when we moved into Midnapore, I served as Community Association President here at the Mid-Sun Community Center. I see one of my favorite board members in the room, Rosemary. And it was just, having a servant's heart is something that I think is really important. I forgot to thank the Sprawl. Thank you guys for coming today. I appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who's come and to basically, take this time to see what candidate resonates with you. During that time, I also spent 10 years in real estate. So I understand kind of sometimes how important it is to make, important decisions and for people to make big decisions and the impact those decisions will have on your lives. 10 years ago, I was hired by Councillor Dumont to be his community assistant. That role entails that I look after all the community associations in Ward 14. We currently have 11. Part of my role is spending evenings at their monthly board meetings. I also look after the development permits that come in through our office. And I collaborate with our team on other issues that have come up. So got a fairly good understanding of the ward and the challenges that we're faced with. But as my opening statement, I just wanted to thank everybody that I've interacted with over those 10 years, be it positive, be it negative. I think we've always had great conversations. To the board members that have come and gone throughout the 11 community associations, thank you for your volunteer time. I've seen boards go up and down and ebbs and flows. And in a world where we like to complain, it's amazing to see a group of people step up and try to make a difference through volunteering in their community. So thank you very much. And I look forward to the rest of the debate, answering any questions that you guys have.
Okay, hi, I'm Erin Averbukh and I'm running for city council. And I'm running on less politics, more community, better management. Less politics to me means that I don't even know a politician. And that's the truth. I don't. I've lived in Sundance since 2003, and I want to be the counselor that I want. and that Ward 14 deserves, and that City Council needs. More community means more communication, more touch points, more town halls. But more importantly, it means restoring the power to the people. I will have interactive voting measures on my website. So anything that I have to vote on at council or committee meetings that have respect to the ward or major City of Calgary items, Ward 14, verified residents will vote. And I will vote the way the ward wants to vote. And I will keep a transparent voting record to support it. And the reason why that's important is because A, it's democracy, and B, this is our city, and that's our money, and we need to have a restored sense of power because we pay a lot to live here. And it's enough that City of Calgary tells us, by the way, we've just done this. Actually, I'm not sure that you have our permission for that. And we do not need to micromanage that city on such a level that we have to do everything. I'm not going to ask you to do my job, but I know there are things that as a citizen that I want to know more about. Okay? 30 seconds. Okay. Better management means, like I said earlier, restoring the structure, returning administration reporting to City Council and City Council reporting to the people. Currently, like I said, the tail is wagging the dog. And so if I'm the only one that sits on council with this agenda, it will make me the leader. And in 2029, when you reelect me, I will have set that bar. And the entire city of Calgary, those councils, they will expect the same. Because this is what Calgarians deserve. And you laugh about me not getting reelected? Well, why wouldn't I? If I'm working for the people and my entire mandate is to answer to the people, why wouldn't I? How do you not get reelected? Mr. Demong did a wonderful job for us for 16 years. I elected that man every year because he was present. So it's not funny, it's real, and it's what you deserve.
Thank you, candidates. Okay, the next step in this debate is through predetermined topics of discussion that were presented to the candidates prior to this debate. The first themed question was regard to transit and growth within Ward 14. And same speaking order, but this time they're allowed 4 minutes. And it was pointed out to me that there are cards at the back for people to write down their questions. I'll try to get back there and pick them up, but if you want to, there is a lady back there and now there's a gentleman helping out. So if you have questions, write them down and we'll try to address them if they're not covered with the predetermined themed questions. So we'll begin with Keener.
So with transit and growth planning, density developments, I was not in favor of the rezoning, as I believe most people were not. And that was emphatically known with the public hearings and all of the written submissions. And yet council still chose not to listen. And that's not right. I am not a subscriber to, I'll call it a myth of urban sprawl. I did a Google search, or sorry, a ChatGPT, and I said, if you took the entire global population and you put it in Alberta, how many square feet would each person have? It returned back to me and said 868 square feet per person, which is the size of a small apartment or a small home or an apartment. We have plenty of land here. We don't need to densify. I understand that people don't want urban sprawl. I get that, but I don't think that's a great concern here. We are not Toronto. We are not Vancouver. We have area all the way around the city. I'm not saying we need to go up buy up farmers' lands and such like that, but I believe that we can accomplish a great deal without having to destroy our communities that people purchased for the reasons that they live there now. Not to have the house burned beside them and not knowing what's going to erect there beside them when they're done. when it's being done erected. As far as transit goes, we need to find a way to get our green line down. We have a tremendous hospital here in the province. We need to get our transit down there. I'm also in favor of getting some transit up to the airport so we can have some public transit that way as well. And I also believe that if people want to ride the transit, they need to feel safe. This transit is not the transit of old. There are people on there that they shouldn't be on there. You don't know, I've been telling people at the doors and they're nodding their heads most of the time when I say it, you don't know what you're gonna expect when you get on and you don't know what you're gonna expect when you get off, right? It's not safe. People don't want their children on transit. So how do they expect us to ride transit if it's not a safe place to be, if it's not comfortable to be there? And so I think we need to put more enforcement, if they're turnstiles or whatever the case may be, to have people that are on the train are people that are using the train for that purpose, to commute back and forth from point A to point B. And that's all I have to say.
Right, so again, with the density, I'm okay with I'm a construction, right? I deal with the city on permitting all the time. And right now, we have a system that is lacking behind almost every other major jurisdiction in North America. And that is, if we want affordable housing, we don't go rip down houses in Midnapore, Lake Buena Vista, Sundance, Queensland. These are all places people that moved into a neighborhood and they expected to stay there the way it was until they die, okay? And so, and it's frustrating that we had to have a town hall, 2 town halls to get everybody, to get our counselor to vote no on the blanket rezoning, okay? That's okay. He did vote no, and so he listened to us, which is great. But beside that, we need a bigger voice, because right now we've got a system that is gonna railroad us again if it comes up in 4 years. Let's say we repeal the blanket rezoning. The next council is just gonna implement it again, right? And so we need safeguards. Mount Royal has a direct designation, right? They have heritage protection, right? Well, council has a legislative rights to file any protection they want over a neighborhood, okay? And I think we've got to do that to neighborhoods that want to be protected. And I'm okay with urban sprawl, but I think we've got to be more responsible. I like to point people to Shawnee Station. It's right next to the superstore, right next to the C train. To me, that's responsible planning, right? People can afford to not have a vehicle and get to work from a very good location for a apartment complex, right? And so if we start focusing on, which they were doing in the first place, but we got to eliminate the red tape to ensure it happens faster, right? When you're a builder and you want to go put a new house in and you've got to wait 6 to whatever, some months to actually get a shovel in the ground, well, your costs have just gone up on labor and material. So that's not affordable housing anymore, okay? And so we've got to get the city out of the way, let builders actually build affordable housing like we have in Walden and Legacy. And that's where people can actually climb the ladder of affordability based on their income and with their family, right? You don't come to Midnapore, rip down a house and expect to be able to live there working for minimum wage. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna happen, right? So they pulled the wool over our eyes and gave us lip service. And right now, I wanna put it back to what it was before, right? And that means in Lake Buena Vista, if your neighbor wants to put a basement suite in, they just have to go through the right procedure, right? If there's parking, great. If the neighbors are okay with it, great. If the infrastructure can hold it, that's fine. And then if everybody is okay with it, then they should be able to do it, because honestly, mortgages and cost of housing and living in this city is going up. And a lot of people are gonna need that added extra income, whether it's a room for rent or a basement for rent, right? But I wanna get the city out of the way to make it actually happen, right? And so it all just comes down to affordability. And right now, if we have a city that's spending like crazy, well, then that's gonna raise the cost for everybody. But honestly, lowering the cost of things is gonna be a race for everybody as well. So if we can stop spending on unnecessary things, and right now, to me, that's anything other than infrastructure, right? We're focused on DEI, we're focused on anything but actually getting this city working for the people again, okay? And that, I see it every day as a small business owner, running into bureaucracy, running into red tape. And it's delaying progress, okay? So let's get rid of that. Let's start working together. And we've had 4 years of a council that's done nothing but fight, right? And I'm sorry, Peter DeMont, but I feel when I did my petition last year, people were using me as their voice for Ward 14 because they weren't being heard anymore, okay? And so what am I gonna do with all those conversations I had with people last year? Well, for me, I'm gonna do something with that. I'm gonna listen to them. I'm gonna represent them at Ward 14 because we need our voice back at the table again.
Transit and growth. All right, in regards to transit, you know, we've, over the 10 years, we've developed a really positive relationship with all admin departments within. One of the ones that's been a bit of a challenge has been transit. Transit will often look at service levels and then they make their amendments on the service levels based on ridership, based on feedback. Then they circulate and they send out that ridership change to our offices once that's been done. Once that's been done, unfortunately, the union's already gotten a hold of the list. Drivers are already signed up for it. And then we get the bad news later on saying Route 78 is no longer going to go up through Sundance this way. It's going to go straight. So there's got to be better conversations when we're looking at changing ridership. As it relates to some of the newer communities, our philosophy with transit right now is that we start off with a small bus. And then if the ridership grows, then we'll go to a big bus. Well, how many times has a small bus gone past a bus stop and it's been full? So nobody's going to want to sit outside in the rain and in the cold and wait for the small bus to come back and around. So what we've got to do is we got to start with a big bus. Understand that there's an investment there, but give people the opportunity to use transit efficiently. And then we'll see after that month or in that quarter, if the ridership's there, then we can make changes. So that's what needs to change in some of our newer communities. We've been fighting for, you know, with transit on a couple of different routes and we haven't had a whole lot of success. So that's one thing that we hope to change is at least have that conversation first and then make those changes. As it relates to growth, this will tie into transit as well. Having spent 10 years in real estate, what was being presented by council as far as the blanket rezoning was fundamentally flawed right from the beginning. A didn't equal Z. I don't always have to agree with what's being proposed, but I have to know that the thoughtfulness has been put into what's happening. Having been a realtor, what they were trying to accomplish wasn't going to achieve the affordability or the densification. The idea is that if we make it easier for small market developers to develop a product, that product will increase. And as that product increases, it drives down the list price. Well, if we don't set parameters around what we're trying to accomplish, are we trying to accomplish 200 to 350, 350 to 5? What is the target market that we're looking for? What funnel are we looking to fill? Because if you don't identify that, then all you're doing is putting product to market at what the current market rate is. And that's your $850,000 to $100,000 unit, which doesn't help anybody. So that was kind of the biggest problem that I had with the blanket rezoning. But one of the things that some of the candidates had mentioned was having a voice at the table. One of the things I plan to bring forward if elected will be a notice of motion that will guarantee in the event that a public hearing goes longer than 2 consecutive days, and just to be clear, we've only had probably a handful of those over the past 10 years that I've been with Peter. So it won't be every single time something comes to council. It'll be the ones like the fluoride conversation, the Olympic plebiscite, the blanket rezoning. In the event that it goes longer than 2 full days, a public hearing, it automatically triggers a pause, automatically triggers a review of that file and a re-engagement with the public as it relates to those who are impacted directly or not impacted directly. That, at the minimum, after 7 days of public hearing, should have been the minimum, was at least a pause and a reset. Thank you. Less than a minute, that's fine. Transit inside Ward 14. We got a glimpse at one of the open houses at the new 2 stations that they're looking to add down at Silverton and down by Belmont. While I'm thrilled to see growth as it relates to the red line, what we've got to make sure is that when we add those 2 stations, currently parking is so limited So again, if we're wanting people to use public transit, yes, it has to be safe, totally agree, but it's gotta be efficient. If you have to get to transit at 5 o'clock in the morning to have a spot to park, you're just gonna take your car downtown. So it's having a full fundamental understanding of what we're trying to achieve is key.
That's it.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks.
Okay, so to start with blanket rezoning, and I will say that anything blanket is lazy and rude. And we have always had rezoning, and we always will have rezoning, even if it is repealed. But there needs to be some very firm boundaries and restrictions that are tied to any rezoning. So of course, this blanket rezoning was to trigger affordable housing. Well, it didn't. So if it's going to fall under that category, then it has to create affordable housing. But more importantly is about the parking. So when you're taking away parking ratios from people and you're telling them that they can't drive or they can't have a car, then they need to be walking distance to rapid transit. And so from my purview, I don't see very many communities in Ward 14 that actually qualify for any blanket rezoning. Maybe Midnapore, because you can walk across the bridge to get to the train. So with respect to transit, that is where I'll start with that. I also believe that the Green Line should go to Seaton. And I'm not quite sure why it's gonna take 6 years to lay track. China just built a hospital in 10 days. I'm not comparing this to China, but I'm telling you that 6 years to build a C train line with, Peter, how many platforms are there? Oh, you don't know? It's 7. 7 platforms. That's a platform per year. Why? That's a long time. So I see public transit, of course, is lacking in our neighborhoods with buses. I would also like to see any development that happens within the city of Calgary, that these infrastructure programs and plans are put into place first. So that we build communities around infrastructure. So people have places to send their kids to school. And the C train's already there. Seaton has been in development for 20 years. It had a plan for, I believe, 60,000 people to live in Seaton. They do not have rapid transit. There's high density housing in there that doesn't have underground parking because they don't want people to have cars, but they still don't have transit. So transit to me is actually a priority project. And I believe that when somebody gets on the train at Somerset Briarwood and their ticket runs out before they get to Tuscany, that's a problem. We're lacking a serious amount of transit in the city and rapid transit. And for a world-class city, not having a line from the airport into the core is embarrassing.
Yes.
We see over 1 million people a month go through YYC. You want to talk about things that we can do for our environment? Get some cars off the road. Don't make people take cars from the airport to wherever they're going. Get a line. Increase transit. Make rapid transit a priority. That hits both our climate targets and it hits getting people around faster. If we want to be a world-class city, we have to be on point with transit. I think I'm good.
Like it.
Okay, so the way we tried to approach this was we would have certain theme questions provided to the candidates to speak on, and then we'll go to some questions from the audience. Primarily, you'll have enough information that maybe you'll want to have the candidates elaborate on some points or clarification or things like that. And once again, there are cards at the back. If you do have questions, write them down, and I will try to get a hold of them while the candidates are speaking. And the next theme question is regarding public safety and community program.
So for me, public safety, if you don't feel safe walking in your neighborhood, leaving your neighborhood, traveling this great city that we have, there's a problem. And so we need to have our police funded, our firefighters funded so that we can live here in a safe city. We can't be having people, on the streets. There are businesses that have people outside of their businesses, like a coffee shop. Someone's sprawled out on the sidewalk, and who's going to frequent that coffee shop? Right? The patrons are going to move to the next shop. They're not going to want to be there. And, I understand that these people need help. And so as part of the community services that we need to deal with is whatever has been being done, it doesn't seem to be working. And so I would propose that we need to look at some alternate solutions to having people with addictions, people that I don't believe there's such things as safe injection sites. What I mean to say is, I don't believe there's really safe injections when it's not administered, for your health. If it's keeping people in addiction, a compassionate society does not leave people trapped in there. So we need to work with the other levels of government, and we need to be able to get these people some help, some true help, because as I say, a compassionate society does not leave people trapped in addiction. Also, as far as safety goes, we need to make sure that we're taking care of, having our C trains being taken care of. As I mentioned earlier, with turnstiles or whatever the case may be, we need to have some presence there. And I've been knocking on doors since August of 2024, and I've been listening to people. They're also concerned about the speeds in their communities, the traffic speeds. There's a raceway down in Chaparral as you're coming up close to Stony. There are many other places I've been talking in Mackenzie. There's people that are going 70. Take Bonavista Downs. They're going down the hill. They're going 70 kilometers an hour. And so they're concerned about safety there as well. And I don't know exactly how we can do it. I will admit I don't have all the answers, but I am willing to listen and to work with and to ask pertinent questions to find out how can we make this better. And I've been to a lot of doors where people are saying, how about this? How about that? How about an idea here? How about a speed hump? How about kind of a slowing measures? In some ways, I would just say, how about some police presence, right? If someone wants to speed, right? Oh, so I'm gonna hit this bump. I got a big truck. I don't give a rip, right? How about if they got some penalties? How about if there was some enforcement here? So I would say maybe increase some of the budgets, perhaps, for police. And as far as fire goes, I talked to the firefighters. They go to over 9,000 calls a year. How many of those are fire related? About 1,100. So maybe we can take our firefighters and make sure that they're getting the equipment that they need for those 1,100 fires. And maybe they don't necessarily need to go to all of like a little fender bender on Crowchild or a little fender bender here down in South McLeod. They don't need to go to every place, but I do understand that they have concerns, and sometimes there's spillage over on vehicles with liquids and hazardous goods. But I've talked to a lot of people, as I say, some police officers who are since retired. Sorry. Yeah, and he was just saying that, we used to call them and say, hey, we got a spill here. You don't need to show up with massive trucks and things like that. I think that they can take their monies that is for the fire and they can actually put it to use, making sure that we have fire stations in better locations and like the one in Walden. And anyway, I'll just leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Okay, so two things I did in April. I rode transit for 12 hours straight. And I did a ride along with District 8 for a 12-hour shift from 4 p.m. till 4 a.m. And what kind of triggered me to do that was waking up in May, I think it was, walking out and seeing my van opened up and all my tools gone, okay? And I'm talking 30 grand worth of refrigeration, HVAC, gas fitting tools, plumbing tools. I have 16 cameras on my house, and because all my tools are in my garage or not anymore. But coming out, and if you've ever been robbed or it's the violation, knowing you worked, you know, days, months, years gathering those tools, putting them in exactly the spot where you know they're gonna be when you need it. And then coming out and watching a video of two guys making 3 trips in an F-150, unloading every pack out that I've worked my butt off for and driving off with it. And that's happened to me twice in Midnapore. Okay, I don't know if it's because the recall last year, I don't know. People know where I live, which is fine. But we live close to the C train. We live close to Bannister, right? There's some, there's some crime in that area, right? There's hot spots, they're called, right? And so when I was doing that ride along with District 8, they don't patrol anymore, right? They're so busy dealing with mental health and domestic calls. This police officer was stocking shelves at Costco 2 years ago, and now he's trying to prevent parents from stabbing their kids, stabbing their neighbor, jumping off of bridges, right? This is what these guys are dealing with right now. And I mean, mental health on both sides of the fence here is that police officers are dealing with stuff they shouldn't have to deal with, right? And we've got obviously mental health crisis in the city, right? And for me, it's not the role of a city to deal with health, right? And so we've got to partner with the province, right? They've got a great, I think the next step, right? Involuntary, right? We've got to start bringing families back together, right? We've tried enabling, right? We've tried it. Vancouver's tried it, right? We've got to bring in extra help, right? Just to reunite 10% of the families would be a win for everybody. So we've got to work with the province. We've got to work with the federal government because it's not the role of a council to ensure health and the health of people, right? That's a different jurisdiction, but we can be the front runners and ensure that our police officers are prepared. Condac promised us a buttload of PAC units, right? And that's with this psychiatric nurse partnered with a police officer, right? So we went to a mental health call in Evergreen there, and it took, I think it was 13 different EMS, firefighters, police officers, to restrain a guy who had overdosed. And because once you give him the Narcan, you don't know what's going to happen when they wake up. So you need that many people just to take after one call. And this guy was a habitual caller, right? They're there for the same 10, 15 people 100 times a week, right? We got to do better than that. And for me, that's involuntary. At this point, we're running out of patrol officers in the city, right? We need more people going around the streets, ensuring that our neighborhoods are safe again at night. Only 25% of people feel safe walking around at night in Calgary. That's not good enough. And for council, it's job to keep you safe. So I'm not going to sit back and let that happen. I'm a very hands-on guy. So if I've got to drive around at night and keep an eye on your property, then I'll do that. So.
I gotta tell you, after those two, I'm not actually too sure what the questions are anymore. Public safety and community programs are the topics we're talking about. Community programs. Erin, how many community associations have buildings in Ward 14? 6. So in order to help our community associations and community programs, we've got to work on getting better grants for our community associations to offer better programming for the community. If you offer better programming and you get your communities engaged, crime goes down. Our seniors group here out of Midsun is one of the most phenomenal seniors groups in Ward 14. They're engaged. I don't know how many, Rosemary, what are we, 180, 60, 80, right around there? Those are individuals in the community that are engaged and involved and talk to each other and let people know what's happening. Public safety, yes. I mean, it's such a blanket statement, but there's so much more to it. And we get better at it by having better conversations. We are not the only municipality in North America that has crime and transit problems. So we need to ask better questions, collaborate a little bit more. The answer isn't turnstiles at every C-train location. We've looked at that. The cost is massive. It's all about getting the resources where they need to be. Landon is correct. District 8 is currently at 68% capacity for their CPS officers. District 6, which is the one that's over off McLeod and Heritage, they're at 72% capacity. So why are we no longer attracting CPS members from across the country that want to be CPS members? These are questions that we need to ask. A lot of the work that I've done over the 10 years is community-based, ground level work. So I don't have a lot of the answers for you. I don't have the silver bullet as it relates to how are we going to make transit safer. I don't have that answer, but I'm really, really good at asking questions. I'm really, really good at listening to the answers. So thank you very much.
Okay, so my apologies, actually, it's not 7, it's 12. 7 was when they were talking about the cutting the line back. So I verified that, I was wrong, it's 12. Okay, so control gates, actually, I'm not sure that that's not a good idea. I'm wondering if that number, do you know, Devin, was it more than $215 million?
It was a lot.
Because 125 EV buses that we just bought cost $215 million. And I think if you ask Calgarians what they would rather have, control gates on their platforms, pardon?
Grant,
Sorry?
wasn't that a grant from the province?
That's their money. It's still our money though.
It's still our money. Okay, so, but if we're gonna talk about things that we're gonna spend money on, and how much they cost, and what the value is that brings to Calgarians, and I will tell you that value is not always money. It's the things that matter to them, and guaranteed public safety is at the top. Okay, so, as we talked about earlier, these programs, better access to them 100%. As a parent, if my kid was addicted to drugs, and I had the option of them being downtown and going to a safe injection site to stay sick, but safely, or there was access to them to get into quicker programming to help them, obviously I'm choosing Plan B. So neighborhood watch programs, I don't know where they are, but we had them when I was a kid, and we need people in our neighborhoods looking out for each other. And so people like Landon don't have to worry about their garages getting broken into and all their stuff being stolen because people are watching. We require more vigilance as a community. We need to start taking care of each other. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about actually the programs and it's a protracted program for me. And so it starts with youth. Okay, so Idle Hands are the Devil's Workshop. And nowadays, kids, a lot of kids, their parents work full-time. They come home after school, and what do? They get on their phones. Well, when I was a kid, my community center was open. And we had dances on the weekends. And there were a lot more programs available for me and my generation to stay healthy. So the long game of that is kids who have less mental health issues. And kids who don't become part of a program or part of neighborhoods or groups that are out there because they have nothing better to do, so they commit crime. It starts with stealing hood ornaments off cars, and it is a fast and hard tumble into a lot of dark places that we don't want to see our kids go to. So let's get community centers open. Let's build more community centers. Walden and Legacy need a community center very badly. I didn't realize that we had only 6, but we do need more. Should every community have one? Yes, they should. I like that Sundance and Midnapore share one, but there are communities that are underserved in that respect, and they need that. And the programs that are there should be meant for families to connect, because the opposite of discomfort is human connection. And that is a very heavy comment, question, or statement, but that is where people feel better, is when they can connect with their communities, when they feel safe. And so public safety, I believe, begins with our youth. It begins with our communities. And I don't know that control gates on all platforms is a bad idea. It will increase revenue, because I'll tell you, I don't think that people are on there checking to see if they have tickets. And I cannot see somebody paying $3.80 to get on a platform to be a menace. Somebody asked me the other day, well, where will they go? Well, the communities need to also take care of those people that are compromised, that are marginalized. We can't just go, well, you can't come here anymore. Where are you gonna go? We have to have programs and we have to have structures in place that support these people. They weren't born and said, I want to be a sick drug addict who commits crimes. Trust me, they didn't. So we need to help these people. And there's ways to do it. And communities need to collect together and find ways to help those people. Because they deserve it. And we deserve to be safe. And that's about it.
Okay, and I was asked that if there are a few chairs up here, if people want to come and sit in the chair rather than lean against the wall or anything.
Yeah, there are empty chairs up here.
Don't be shy, like.
And if some of you younger people can see some of these older people, you might want to give up your seat so that they can have maybe a break. Thank you, Peter.
Okay, so the third topic to be discussed by the candidates regards transparency.
This is my big one here, I think. It's actually transparency and accountability. As I may have mentioned before, and if anybody's been to my website, seen my video, I'd encourage you, if you have not, take a look at that video. I'm putting forth 5 simple proposals. I think that would make Calgary be a better Calgary as well. But main reason I'm running is I got tired of yelling at the radio. I got tired of seeing our money being used on wasteful things, like giant blue rings, like rebranding our city, like declaring a climate emergency, like playing around with $40 million art budgets. We need to get back to our core essential services, and we need to get back to taking care of those roads, fire, police, grass cutting, snow clearing, potholes, roads. We need to take care of these things. I took a soundboard course one time at a workshop for soundboard. Like, I would have done a little bit better job than what we have here, but that's okay. But essentially, and maybe I can use this as a point, a stronger case in point. When you go to, like, the guy started off the workshop and he said, when you go to an event, you might not see your job as very important, but when you go to an event and like, be it a wedding or a music concert or a speaking engagement, perhaps like this, when those people leave that event, if they're talking about the wedding, the speaking engagement, the music concert, you've done your job. If they're talking about, I couldn't hear, if the music was too loud, I couldn't hear this, it was muffled, it was staticky, you didn't do your job. So part of what I'm looking at is I want to make sure that, and I don't know if you can fully equate it to this, but to me, everybody here in this room, and I'm pleased to see that there's this many here, everybody in this room would probably not rather be here today. They would probably be rather doing your things. But you are here today because this is part of this is part of our democracy, and you want to be here. But really, if we were doing our jobs well, if a councillor is doing their job well, and running the city, you're doing your stuff. You're not saying, oh, I wish I had this, or why did they put that in here? When are they gonna fix this? Why are they having it like this? So I think a lot of things that can make people accountable and, just having some transparency, like what's with all the in-camera meetings? I get it, if you're doing a performance review on one of the city officials, you don't need that laundry out there. But if you're, if it's something that the city needs to know, right? Even if you go into closed meetings, once you come out and once the vote is done, once that's been established, like you don't want to say in there, you don't want to be saying, okay, we're going to take $3.2 million for this piece of land that we're selling. That's our bottom line, right? We're hoping to get 3.2. You don't need the public to know that, right? Because someone's going to come in with 3.2 and 1 cent, right? And they're just going to say, okay, well, we didn't get a deal, but you might have got it for 35 or sorry, 3.5 or something based on the bidding. So you can allow those things to happen. But in the end, would it not be prudent to say, listen, we decided that our bottom line was 3.2. We only got 3.1 or we got 3.5. I think that's fair and that's transparent and we should know that. And I'm willing to be held accountable. I'm going to hold others to account. And also, I just want to make sure that our accountability and our transparency are there. And I'm willing to ask, I come to realize that if you don't ask the right questions, you will not get the right answers. And I'm one who wants to ask the right questions so that we get the right answers. Thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to rebuke something Devin had said earlier about basically if there's 2 days of a full schedule for in-person comments at a council meeting, that it would be tabled. Well, if we go to repeal the blanket rezoning, who do you think is going to show up to fill up those 2 days and have that put back on the table? Okay, so that's flawed in that anybody can abuse the system, right? So I've got a thing with legislation and finding loopholes, and that's one that would be used immediately. So the only way to counteract that is to use what we do right now, and that's millions and millions of dollars that the city literally just spent on an engagement survey with KPMG. And there was more candidates that showed up to the engagement session on engagement than actual people, right? So they've already failed at the survey engagement session of it. And again, that's a lot of money wasted. So the only way that we can actually ensure that the next bylaw isn't put to what the blanket rezoning was, is to have council be in charge of surveys again, right? And so right now, when there's a survey that goes out from the city of Calgary, well, they receive that survey, they disseminate it to the council, whatever way they want, okay? And so I think council should receive the raw data from all surveys, and then they use that, and if it's a 60-70% that is against or for a bylaw, right, then it should either be tabled, right, for a future council, so that can either be worked on. And I think that's the only way to prevent a future blanket rezoning, is to ensure that if the majority do not want that bylaw, right, then we can look at putting it to a plebiscite, right? Like we've had plebiscites before. It would have been a whole lot cheaper than doing the blanket rezoning kerfuffle, right? So I would fight for that day one. And then for me, transparency and accountability is why I did the recall against conduct, right? I found out, and people have been using me as a whistleblower for about 5 years now, and I'm talking down at City Hall. They don't trust the system anymore. So they came to me and said, Landon, there's something major going down at the mayor's office. And I said, okay, well, what's my recourse? And so I did what I was supposed to do. I contacted Peter DeMont. I asked him what I can do. And he said, if you want to change it, you do it yourself. Okay. And so I did, right? The next day I filed a petition against conduct, right? And I did everything in my ability to not only stress the legislation, which was flawed, and at the same time, I wanted to bring a massive awareness to the lack of leadership in the city, right? And because between elections, they don't care about us anymore, right? They don't listen to us. They do what they want to do, and every 4 years they make these promises and then they forget about them. Okay, I'm not okay with that. I wasn't okay with that last year. right? And everybody else here was screaming at the radio. Well, I don't scream at the radio. I get out and do something about it every single time, okay? And I'll keep doing it as your counselor. I don't have all the fancy stats that Devin has. He's been doing this for 10 years. But I guarantee you, if you're in the same position as him, you'd be doing just as good his job, because his job is to be a community liaison, right? That's great. He did a very good job at it, right? Although I don't really remember hearing about him for the past 9 years, all of a sudden he's appearing at every street light and stoplight out there saying, this is what I did, right? That's great. That was your job and you did a good job at it. But for me, right, it's the next thing that's gonna happen. It's the next transparent thing that's gonna be hidden behind closed doors, right? And I think people deserve the right to know what's going on with their dollars. Okay, and that's what I'm gonna fight every single day. You can count on me, not just to ask questions, okay? It's about doing something. It's about showing results, okay? Yeah, I didn't get enough signatures to get rid of the mayor. We were never gonna get more signatures than people that could actually vote, because the legislation was flawed, right? And right now, we've got no ethics commissioner down at City Hall. We have no code of conduct that's governing our counselors and their counselors' assistants. So they can get away with whatever they want. If you want to file a complaint, it goes in the garbage right now. So we have to hire back an ethics commissioner, but not a third-party one. We need it ran by citizens. People should have access to the files, ethical complaints down at City Hall. Because other than that, it's just gonna be filed in the same place all the complaints against the mayor went into, right? And so if we could bring back some sort of audit committee that's only ran by citizens, there's no counselors on it, there's no city administration, any complaint that's filed through the city, whether it's financial, whether it's ethical, whatever it is, citizens have the right to look at that complaint and do what's necessary, whether that's file a report with council, file with administration, file with a lawyer. We need transparency back in the city. Otherwise, they're just gonna keep getting away with what they've been doing for the past 20 years, to be honest. The last good mayor I remember was Ralph Klein, right? And he was somebody who said he was gonna do something and he did it, right? Since then, we've just been spending money, spending money, spending money, so.
Transparency and accountability, it's a fun little catchphrase that we all like to use a lot. My apologies for not representing you, Landon, as a constituent over the past 10 years. But my concern has really been in the, helping the volunteers and the community associations. You talk about, where I've been, I've been here for people. And, you all have had opportunities to join and volunteer on your community associations. And I'm pretty sure, I think Keener's the only one that actually volunteers and serves in that capacity, so. Anyways, it's, sure, my head has been at the Ward 14 level. We don't look at wide policies, we don't look at solving the city's problems, we look at solving Ward 14's problems. And we do that through work with and collaboration with our community associations on a monthly basis, finding out what they want. We're reactive to the concerns. Concerns will come up at a meeting and we'll take those away. Sometimes we can do stuff, sometimes we can't. Sometimes we find ways of doing the stuff that we can't. And sometimes you gotta say no. And that's not easy. And in the 10 years that I've been doing this with Peter, saying no for somebody who likes to say yes a lot is hard. Sometimes you can't help everybody, or sometimes you have to make a decision that's gonna make some people happy, it's gonna make some people angry. And that's one of the tough decisions that you have to make when you're a counselor for Ward 14. So, I mean, as it relates to, accountability and transparency, we'll be bringing back our council talks on a quarterly basis, so to give people an opportunity to come out, voice their concerns. Having them on a quarterly basis, I think, will capture people's mindsets a little bit more as an actual ward. And accountability, we're always available. So it's, we're not hard to get a hold of. So if there's something that you disagree with, something that you don't like, just let us know and we'll deal with it together. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't believe the city of Calgary actually has a revenue problem. I think they have a spending problem. Okay, So I've already talked about how I will be accountable to Ward 14. And I think that that's a really important tool that I believe everyone in Ward 14 will want to be a part of. Anybody who has any real interest in our ward, they're going to be involved in that. It's like in that movie, if you build it, they will come. We shouldn't have to file freedom of information requests to find out how the city of Calgary spends our money. And we do. Everything is very, very tight-lipped. They have in-camera meetings. In-camera means the camera's not there. Those should not exist. This is public money. The only thing that should be private at the city of Calgary are HR files. So having a new, fresh perspective, I highly respect Devin and Peter DeMong for doing the work that they've done. But I think it's time for Ward 14 and for Calgary to change gears. We need something new. We need a different perspective. People who are going to come onto council and not just receive the baton and carry on. So I don't know everything. I really don't. And I would definitely have what I would call a knowledge bank of people that I would have on my team or even at arm's length. And I wouldn't even say that these gentlemen wouldn't be them. Because that's what collaborators and leaders and team builders do. I have respect for every single one of these people. Anybody who steps up to do this, that is the ultimate act of community service.
Yes.
So even if I did not sit on a board or a council or anything, in a meeting within our community, I'm doing this. And I'll tell you that I'm a solo mom. My husband passed away 6 years ago, and I have raised my 2 kids by myself for 6 years. So my capacity to sit on a board was not real, but it is now. I got 2 drivers, I got a graduate, and 1 in high school. It's a completely different time for me. And this is not a passion, people, this is a calling. This is me wanting to get onto city council to give us what we deserve, which is that transparency, that accountability, restoring the power back to the people. Someone who is a connector and a collaborator, not someone who's creating division. Politicians create division. You're either with them or you're against them. They are the people who in our lives are supposed to be our leaders. And they say, you know what? We don't have to tolerate or compromise or be respectful or be trustworthy, but you do. We do. We have to. We do that at work every day. We do that with our families. We do it with our neighbors. But politicians, they have declared that they are exempt. So we do not need politics in municipal government. It is meant to be nonpartisan. And so when you have real people representing you at council, you can count on that. So that's what transparency and accountability looks like on a little bit of a tangent. But it's what we deserve. We should know way more than we do. And it should just be available information.
Could I have your patience for 1 minute, please? Thank you.
He wants our page H for
Okay, thank you for your patience. We're gonna move right along here to, questions from the floor. Some of you have submitted some in writing. But in the meantime, if there's any questions that you'd like to ask of the candidate based on what they've already said, let's see what we can come up with.
First of all, thank each of you for putting your name forward. That's making. This is my interest. I guess my question focuses around, at the end of your term, how will you judge success? And what will be your one major accomplishment for the citizens of this area?
Specific, anybody, or? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, okay. Are you asking a specific one, or are you asking for each of us?
Each of you.
Okay.
This is your chance. What's the question?
So I will repeat the question in case somebody missed it, and you can correct me if my question is not being summarized correctly. But he's asking, after 4 years, how will you deem success? How would you deem that you were successful in your term? Is that correct?
That's the first part.
Okay,
And the second is, what's the one major accomplishment that you will be particularly proud of at the end of those 4 years?
okay. And the second one was, what would be the most, what would be your top highlight success for you? So for me, I just mentioned it with that example I talked about earlier with the soundboard. If everybody here, and I, you know, I'm realistic. I realize that you can't please everybody, right? Devin pointed it out, you know, if you have somebody that, you know, wants this and the other person doesn't want that, like you can't please them both. But for me, I would say if people are living their lives, doing their things in this great city, I've done my job. If they're not complaining, if they have paved roads, if they have structures in place, if they have more money in their pocket to do the things that they choose to do for themselves and their families, I think I've done my job at the end of the 4 years. If we can reduce our spending, if we can find improvements and efficiencies in all areas, in all departments, and continue to do that, I think I've done my job. If people are, you know, having better lifestyles, if they're able to get around the city better, I think that I've done my job. And I didn't give us a time frame for this one here. So anyway, anyway, that would basically be my answer. I hope that's sufficient for you. And just remember, when you go to vote, leaner with Keener.
Okay, so for measurement of success, to me, it should be two things. First one is if we can maintain a tax level that is either zero or inflation, okay? And for me, that's measured at, we had a pothole that was reported in front of our house, and they sent a crew to inspect it, okay? 3 months later, they sent another crew to see if it got worse. And then the third time, they sent a crew, but it had already been fixed by me. It took them 6.5 months to come fix one pothole, right? But they thought they'd fixed it, and they put a little check mark on it saying they did a good job, right? And so for me, I would like to see efficiency back in the city. And so that's that. When they send a crew out to inspect it, well, they fix it at the same time they inspect it, right? I think that would be a great efficiency. And that's something as a small business owner, I have to be efficient, right? I don't go set an appointment up in Airdrie down in Okotoks in the same day. Oh, no. I rearrange that schedule so I'm doing 2 calls in Okotoks and then 1 call the next day in Airdrie and then 1 up in Hawkwood, right? So that's being efficient. Right now, the city's not efficient, right? They're bloated. We've got 10,000 more city workers in this city right now than we did 5 years ago. Who's fighting back against that? Who's telling these people, why do we need that many people? Why are affordable housing units falling apart right now? Why is half of the affordable housing department working from home when they should be having shovels and paintbrushes and anything other than what they've been doing right now, because that's a waste of money, right? We've got, quick thing, I went into a procurement with the city of Calgary through affordable housing. The first house I went into, 5-month-old, sorry, the first conversation that I had with affordable housing was, oh, you're that guy, okay? First thing, because they knew I did the recall against contact, right? From then on, it was a nightmare for me to get anything done. But first house, 5-month-old furnace, 3-month-old hot water tank, 2-week-old hot water tank. And they said, these are the assets. And I said, well, I can't replace these. These are brand new. And they said, if you don't do it, we'll find somebody else that will do it. Okay, and I wasn't okay with that, right? They ran into the wrong guy. I called the province and I told them, this is what's happening with your assets managed by the city of Calgary. And they said, well, that's not true, Landon. I don't believe you, right? I sent them the asset list. They said, holy moly. And I asked them, when was the last time you guys did an audit? It's not been recent, I'll tell you right now. And so they actually took the contract away from the city of Calgary, right? And that was a $250,000 contract, right? And I was able to get those assets off the list, put back into the end of life, which is around 20-25 years. Right? I just saved us 60 grand by standing up. Okay? And that's just a small piece of the pie at affordable housing. And it's the role of a counselor to ensure every single dollar is being used responsibly. I don't care if it's up in the northeast, northwest. As a counselor, I gotta make sure your dollars are being spent affordably. So my measurement at the end of this would be a 0% tax increase year over year, and that we play within our means again. Okay, so it's as easy as that. Let's play within our means. Don't go spending money on stuff that we know nobody asked for, right? Ensure infrastructure is gonna be there for our kids when they get up to, coming out of school right now. Make sure they have jobs coming out of school, make sure they can afford a house, right? But right now, we're just spending too much money, and as your counselor, I'll make sure that it's spent responsibly, so. Cool.
Thank you for your question, sir. Measurements of success. I'd like to see us continue to still be in a place where we get, our community associations are packed. The AGMs are busy. Feedback continues to flow in that way through the community association. From an actual standpoint of achievements, it'd be nice to see us get a plan for 210th and 194th that actually works collectively together for that interchange there. I'd like to see us be able to get a little more funding so we can get some of the rapid flash beacons. We've got a list of about 10 of them that we are still on the go. And these are all done through collaborations through the community associations and stuff. So I'd like to see us be able to tick some more of those boxes off. Some of the things I'd also like to see, we've got building standards and we've got industry standards as it relates to construction. But what we're lacking in is the guys that sign off on it are the inspectors. So a lot of the stuff, and especially some of the newer communities, now we don't have a whole lot of newer communities left in Ward 14 to be built out. But stuff gets laid, so the level of gravel, the density of the gravel isn't necessarily done the way that it should be. So that's why sometimes we see our concrete fail, our sidewalks fail. What type of infrastructure are we putting in as it relates to roadways? I know that when we did Mid Lake Boulevard, I think 5 years ago, the seams are already starting to pull apart. So are we doing it worse than we did? This was a 25-year life cycle than when we did the Mid Lake Boulevard one. And we've already got seams in some of the areas after 5 years. So are we not watching what they're doing or are we not doing it properly? So we need a little more accountability there. But overall, just everybody to enjoy where they live. Like we don't look for a lot of citywide policies to fix. Although in the time that I've been here, we've managed to do 2 of them. One was the catalytic converter notice of motion that I wrote. We were finding out that a lot of people were losing their catalytic converters and there was right? And there was no accountability or there was no necessary to show the ownership is the word I'm looking for. So we had one of my CPS officers busted a kid with 6 catalytic converters in the back of his truck. But because he didn't have to show proof of ownership, they couldn't get him on that. So we added some teeth around that. That was through having different partnerships throughout the city. One of the other ones that we just wrote was the tow truck notice of motion. That was another one that we wrote, not looking to do citywide policy, but the tow truck notice of motion was basically what was happening is people were going to accident scenes to solicit a tow, and they were infringing on EMS and CFD and CPS, trying to get you to agree to let me tow your car. So now we've added a buffer around that, and actually the province has taken that on and working with the AMA to make a province-wide ban to allow for our emergency workers to do their work and provide safety for people. So while we don't go looking for it, sometimes it comes up, but a lot of our stuff is just driven on community base. So success for me is just ticking more boxes, sir.
So I will be checking in on my platform every day in this job, which is less politics, more community, better management. And so at the end of my term, that less politics should mean to me that I'm sitting with 13 other councillors and a mayor who are truly representing the people that they represent, that the wards that they represent. So currently, I would say that's not happening. The media call a group of people on council the hateful eight. And those are people who are not doing what they were elected to do, which is to represent their people. So at the end of my term, I would like to see that people are truly representing the people in their communities. The more community, 100% means that I have that buy-in from my community. And I have at least 10,000 people in Ward 14 on that platform, helping me make decisions that serve the ward and are best for Calgary. Better management, it looks like efficiency and making sure that we are having efficient service delivery. So does that look like lower taxes? I'm not sure, but it definitely should look like value. That we're getting what we paid for, that we are not spending money on the superfluous when those core services are not meticulous. What I would like to walk away after 4 years and say that I had a part in was building that green line in under 6 years and taking it to sea. I'd also like to be a part of building the line from YYC into the core. These are priorities. And that's where I feel like I'd like my hallmark to be. And I'd also like to get reelected. This is a one-shot deal for me. I'm not gonna run again if I don't make it, because I'll be 57 and I'll be doing something else. So it's a one-shot deal for me, it's a one-shot deal for you. But if I do get elected, I will give you 3 or 4 terms. I believe term limits are something we should consider, and 3 terms is probably the best place for that. But I will stay for that long. But I'm not gonna try this again at 4 years, because a politician would spend the next 4 years of their life trying to find how to win. And I'm not a politician. I'm not trying to be one. So that's where I'm at with that. So I'm hoping I get there, and I hope I get reelected. And that would be, I guess, the benchmark if I did what I said I was gonna do.
Okay, question based on cards submitted by the audience. There has been considerable interest, not only in this word, but in other words regarding the reversing or rescinding blanket rezoning. Would the candidates like to comment on how they might go about rescinding blanket rezoning?
I'm always having to go first here, so it doesn't give me a lot of time to prep as my cohorts here, but that's fine. As far as the blanket rezoning goes, I'm not gonna need a lot of time for this. I would repeal it. And the best I understand, as I say, I don't have every answer, but I would repeal that. And my understanding would be you put a notice of motion forward and you vote. And when the vote is done, it's been deemed passed or failed as a motion. So the motion would be repeal the blanket rezoning that was implemented in 2021 by council and, or sorry, not 2021, 2023 by council. And, no, sorry, it was 2024. Anyway, whatever year it was, doesn't really matter. I would look to just have that repealed. And if that means it just reverts back to the other, what was there before, then excellent. If it means you can't do it that way, you have to actually deem it to go back the other way, then whatever it takes, whatever's there now is not what the people want. So we need to get rid of that. And that would be my position on that. Like, you know, people purchase their homes in the area where they live for the reason that they chose, right? Be it like amenities for their children, for their grandchildren, school proximity, whatever the case may be, they chose the dwelling that they're in for the reason that they chose it for. And, you know, for someone to come in and just say, you know what, your neighbor is, they've sold their home and now there's this massive structure coming up beside you. That is not why they bought there, right? And let me point out another thing that I think maybe overlooked by some. Most houses here in Ward 14, at least in the earlier, the older communities in Ward 14 here, I'm gonna say the underlying infrastructure that's there was put there based on single-family dwellings. And when I'm talking at the doors to people, I'll point to the house across the street or the house beside them, I'll say, if that house over there burnt down, you don't know what you're gonna expect is gonna be put in its place right now. Before, you would kind of understand they would just replace it with something similar, but now you don't know. But I would say if you know, because you can have up to 12 dwellings on each unit, so, you know, if you 12x this and 4x that home over there, and you 8x over here, and you 2x over here, what's the underlying infrastructure gonna hold? Is it gonna hold that? Like, we just had a water main break, right? And last year, doesn't that kind of indicate that was supposed to last 100 years? Doesn't that not kind of indicate what kind of infrastructure is under there, right? You know, all these, you know, some of these vanity projects or these pet projects that I refer to, you know, those have some appeal. You know, if we had to redo all the sewer lines in an area, right? There's no appeal to that. Nobody can see that. Nobody can deal with that. But let me tell you, if the sewer lines stop working, we're in the doo-doo, right? Literally. And so, you know, we need to take care of our core essential services. And so, but this rezoning thing is absolutely, I would repeal that, and whatever it takes to get it back to what it was, then I would be, I'm totally game for whatever's necessary. Get it back to what it was and get it back into the community's decision.
If we can get 8 good counselors at City Hall, won't matter which mayor's in there, whether it's Gondek, whether it's Farkas, whether it's Sharp, doesn't matter. If we can get 8 good counselors, we can repeal the blanket rezoning, right? But that's only step 1, right? The next one is to ensure that it can't happen again. And that's working with communities, working with the city administration to do surveys on communities that want to be protected, right? And whatever legislative rights the council has, we can work with the province if we have to, amend the MGA if we have to ensure that communities have better say over their neighborhoods, right? And that could, having a citywide restricted covenant that's paid for by the city, that every house in that neighborhood is protected, right? And then we can get to actual affordable housing, and that's what we were doing before, the local area plan, right? Building the near transit, but the biggest thing, when I was talking with builders, talking with the people that actually create affordable housing, is they're frustrated with the amount of paperwork, right? They're frustrated with the amount of red tape that the city has introduced, right? And that's that 10,000 new staff the city's hired, right? That we don't know what they're doing, right? It's very hard to get an accounting on what those new staff members are doing over the past 5 years. A third of this city's hires have been over the past 5 years. Okay, what are they doing? Where are they going? Can we get rid of them if we can? But we can put in less restrictions on all new builds, right? On affordable housing, condos, townhouses, near transit, near new Walden, Legacy and Walden. I point people that way. If they're looking for affordable housing, they can find something that's already been built in a neighborhood that you expect to have high density in, right? But what's scary about high density is if your house burns down, your neighbor's house is gonna burn down as well, right? And so we've got to be careful. I mean, I moved to Midnapore because I've got, I mean, it is a 0 lot line, but I mean, we have a big yard, we have side fences, we have a front yard, right? Like, for me, that's what I want. I want a single family house. It's like, that's how you grow family. Like, it's very hard to grow family in a condo, right? But if we give people the options and we eliminate all of the red tape and all the nonsense the city has introduced, and it's very easy to look at other jurisdictions that have figured it out. Edmonton has automatic permitting for builders right now, right? And it's not necessarily about building more than we need to, or expanding further out, but it could be that whatever is gonna get built should be done right away. And that's how you get affordable housing. I'm sorry, but we can't just put a blanket anything over this city when you've got such a diverse, like even Ward 14, we've got you know, some neighborhoods that are already blanket rezoned. And we've got Queensland, which I thought maybe would have been 50-50, but they're 90% against blanket rezoning. Because if you've gone to the north end of Queensland, it's one of the most peaceful streets I've ever been to in Calgary, right? And we want to protect that. And not only will I rescind it, I'll make sure it can never happen again under any legislative right. As a single vote on council, I'll make sure that I stand up and fight for you, just like I have before, and I'll keep doing it. And as a council member, you have a lot more rights as a citizen. So I'm going to use that, and I won't waste a second of it if I'm on council, to ensure what you guys want happens in the city again. Okay?
So because the original notice of motion that was presented before council has now exceeded 6 months, you no longer have to rescind or repeal it. It just takes a new notice of motion to get rid of, to put the base zoning back to single family. The actual structure of the blanket rezoning that council put forward, like I said at the beginning, was flawed. There wasn't enough thought behind it, so there's no way that we can actually work with what we have. The local area plan does work. It basically is, it takes, so for example, the Heritage Communities local area plan is Acadia, Haysboro, Kingsland, I think Southwood as well. So what that does is that does take a look at how the current public works within an older community. It works, but it's still kind of flawed as well as far as its engagement, how it plans to approach infrastructure and building, because a lot of those will be done once that building has already commenced. But in order to basically just get rid of the blanket rezoning, it just requires a new notice of motion with the majority of council in favor of it. And then once we're done with that, we can take a look and see, you know, if there's different ways that we can improve densification. One of the things that we've done is we've already turned over our TOD sites, so our transit-oriented development sites. So that's Anderson Station, Fish Creek Station. We've turned those over to, so you can see them. I'm always, my real estate days are CMLC, and that's not the right one, but the Calgary, yeah, it is. Okay, just send something else in real estate. But we've handed that file over to them because that's what they do. They take space, they redevelop it, and they look at it the best way possible. So trying to shoehorn 6 or 7 units into a community that didn't want it in the first place, it's never going to achieve what they wanted it to achieve. Looking at these transit-oriented sites like Anderson TOD that can take 1,700 units, that's where that densification should take place. I've heard a few people mention affordable housing. If we're actually going to take affordable housing seriously, it takes all 3 levels of government, and it's going to take subsidies. To think that a developer is going to create affordable housing out of the kindness of their heart is not practical. We've tried it before, but we've had development planners basically say, can you at least put 10% of your 100 units that you're building for low income housing? Oh gosh, you know, that's going to be so much with construction costs. We'll look at doing that next time. Unless all 3 levels of government want to actually take affordable housing seriously, you've got to subsidize it, or else it's just not going to get there. And there's, you know, through the collaborations with different levels of government that I've been affiliated with, there's lots of ways we can do that. Anyways, that's my stance.
So I think I already touched on blanket rezoning, but I'll kind of go back to that a little bit. So my opinion of that whole public hearing for the days and the hundreds and hundreds of people, it was lazy and it was rude. and a waste of time and a waste of money. And so we did talk about plebiscite votes, and I've heard a lot of people say, well, they're very expensive. Well, I've already just told you that we can just run them on websites. They don't even cost money. So the lack of community respect was probably what put the fire in my belly to take this on. So of course, there's always going to be rezoning. There has been a rezoning, but it needs to have those very strict guidelines. So if it's about affordable housing, Devin says that, you know, the builders aren't really excited about affordable housing. Well, then I guess that's time for the city of Calgary to say, well, actually, if you want to build here, we require it. Because every single community starts with starter homes and then they build up into the larger estate homes. So there already is a plan in place for builders to develop, to fit the needs of those communities. And so we have the power to say, actually, you will build that. Because why not? They answered us. They should. So blanket rezoning obviously is, I guess, it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors, because I know that we can repeal it, but we still have to have things in place to make sure that whatever happens with rezoning is strategic and makes sense and fits at affordable housing, is also close to transit, and that there are architectural design controls in place to make sure that people do not have to live beside monstrosities that don't fit in with the motif. It's basic human respect. And so that comes from the city of Calgary's planning department. And when those plans come in or those projects come in, it will be on them to say, not approved. Rubber stamping anything is not the answer.
So maybe. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your patience. Since all the candidates have had a chance to, 1 minute, since all candidates have had an opportunity to speak about transparency, accountability and independence, there have been quite a few cards submitted regarding contributions, endorsements and disclosure. Would the candidates like to discuss any comments you want to share regarding accountability?
So I'm just gonna change the order here because I think Keener had asked before, he thought he needed a little bit of time to think about his answer, and he's right, that's fair. Okay, so I understand this question. So I want everybody to pay attention to the signs. Okay, so the signs that are outside with my competitors and myself are massive in volume and in size. I have nice modest signs, okay? And on my website, I have all the donors that I have received money from. It's just people that I've met in the community. I don't think I talked to you about how I met people in the community. I haven't been door knocking, but I've been going to parking lots of the lakes and the grocery stores, and I find people. I find 100 people a day, and I've been campaigning. Today's day 111. So I've had thousands and thousands of conversations, and so those lovely people, they have sent me, I don't know, let's say 50 of them sent me $100. Okay, so everything that I've done with my campaign with respect to my printing comes from my donors. So my competitors who have thousands of dollars worth of signs, those are future favor funds. And we have not had to disclose how much we have spent or received in money until just up to July 31st. Okay, and so that is public knowledge right now. But you won't find out about the rest of that money until long after the election. There's a very interesting story behind me and them. I am the most powerful candidate on the ballot. Because when or if I get elected, I have no favors to fulfill. I have no scores to settle and no deals to do. Because my competitors, they do. They have tens of thousands of dollars that have come to them from people who said, here, buddy, let me help you win. Nobody came to me and asked me that. So with respect to endorsements and to say that you're an independent, but then proudly boast on your website endorsements from MLAs and MPs, you're not independent. You're not. And like I said, I don't even know a politician. I am one of you. And I am running to do this job the way we deserve to have it done. For the people, by the people. Now, I could be wrong about what's going on with my competitors and the money that they have. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. Because I know how much that costs to have those signs. And I'm not asking for money because I don't need any more money. It's not about, bigger is not better. It's not. So not only does it speak to me being able to manage campaign funds efficiently and effectively, it actually speaks to my true independence. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, so most of my donors are the same people that helped me last year, right? Just people that were tired of not having a voice at the table. They came and they donated $100, $200, family, friends, my own business have donated. I mean, outside of that, I haven't owe anybody any favors except you guys. You know, you're the guys that we answer to. You're the boss. That's why I'm an independent fiscal conservative, right? I am loyal to you, not to a party. That should be the most important thing, right? The fiscal side of me is I just want to spend money. And subsidies is a very scary word because that's taking money out of your pocket to put it in somebody else's. And I want to hear that word again. And for me, I would vote on any bill that increased our taxes. I would vote against it. That's the fiscal conservative side of me. Again, that's very scary. I hope that doesn't come up again. Subsidies is what brings us into high inflation. It's why it costs so much to buy anything in the city for housing. Right? We got to lower the cost of everything, right? And that includes government spending right now. So all my donations are from people. No corporations have donated to me. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really think about it, right? You need money to run a campaign, right? You got to get signs out there. You got to get your message out there. So unfortunately, that's the name of the game in municipal politics. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anytime anybody in the room decides that they want to make a public declaration of putting a lawn sign or supporting a candidate, I mean, that's huge. That is such a wonderful, it is really actually quite nice to drive around Ward 14 and see so many people engaged in supporting different candidates. I mean, we are very fortunate. We've got 6 candidates up here, 7 including myself. Well, there's 4 of us, but the rest of them, I'm sure they care. But it's, I don't know, it's just nice to see you guys all engaged in what's happening. Have I developed relationships? Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't develop relationships that enables me when somebody calls and has a concern or a complaint, if I can pick up the phone to the person who's directly involved in fixing it, I do that. So if they want to support me in continuing to do what we've done for 10 years, thank you. Thank you to everybody, whether you're a corporation, whether you're an individual that's supported. Thank you. And I hope to do the best that I can going forward like we've done for the past 10 years. That's all.
If anybody knows me, I don't even like to ask for money. I believe in meritocracy. And, like, you know, to ask somebody for money, I feel like I have to have a shower before I ask them. And I have to have a shower while I'm asking them. And I have to have a shower after I've asked them. I don't, you know, I've had donors that want to put it forward. I don't have any large signs. I'm like Erin. To me, I have small signs. I want to get to the doors, and I want people to know that I can provide them with a sign when they support me. To me, private property lawn signs, you can plaster the whole public area with your signs. But a private sign indicates some support. But I do also want to make one statement. These people have put lots of money into signs all around the city. And I do not condone anybody touching someone else's sign, right? Some signs are put in places where they shouldn't be put, right? We'll allow bylaw to deal with that. But I think that everybody here would be in agreement with me. Like, there's signs getting destroyed. Devin had one on a video. Like, that is just not right. Right? Let's have a quality democracy here where people can freely express themselves and have an opportunity to, you know, for people to see what they stand for. It just brings some visibility to people and say, oh, there's another one running. Let me go check that person out. Let me see what they stand for. Let me see how they would help me out, or let's see how they, you know. So I think that, that just needs to be said. You know, and if you see anybody like destroying signs, call 311 or call the police, right? Like, it's just not right. People are, I think I've been fortunate. I don't think any of my signs have been damaged. But as I say, I know Devon's has, like, you know, wood, a couple of wood ones, and that's just not right. But I do also want to say that as far as endorsements and things go, if anybody received here an email from Councillor DeMong in early September that was endorsing Devin, take a look at that email. It was not from Peter DeMong's address. It was from Devin Elkin's TELUS email address. And I think that people need to have honest people sitting in office. This building you're in right now, if you look further down in that email, this is the mailing address of Devin Elkin's campaign, which he had never received permission to use. Again, we need honest people. In that email as well, it said, you opted in. The reason why you are receiving this email is because you opted in via our website. That is not true. I received a personal one from that, and 2 other family members received that. We never opted in via there. So it brings questions to mind. Where did my information come from that landed into that email, chimp mail broadcast? I have written into Councillor DeMong's office on a number of occasions. So I just asked the question. Thank you.
Hi there, my name's Councillor Peter DeMong. I want to address this because this is absolute trash. I have been cleared by the information ministry. We've been cleared from everyone else. Wait a minute. Just let me.
What I said was truthful.
I'm not saying you're not. You know, and I know. I know you. I have gotten your information personally from you.
Like you and me personally?
Yes.
Not for your office.
Not for my office. But here's the thing. Even if I wanted to use, I didn't use any office records. Even if I wanted to, that is allowed as it's a constituent record. But be clear, I did not. 4 campaigns, 15 years of office, talking to people, door knocking. That's where that list comes from. I gave that list, as anyone in politics understands. It's a list. It's a list I have gathered. I said, Devin, would you like to use my list for me to give you an endorsement? Absolutely politically correct.
But I didn't opt in via his website.
then that's a mistake on the email. It should have said from Peter Long's email list.
Not.
It's not honest. I did not vote for high density housing.
My apologies.
Hi, so I have served on a number of community boards. I actually, for 8 years, chaired the building, for this fourplex. And I was president of this community association and also in Lake Sundance. So I know a little bit about this, but we have seen a rise in break and enters in our community. Landon, I'm so sorry that has happened to you twice.
7 times over 7 years.
And on my cul-de-sac, which is over by the new schools in Sundance, I've even seen them at 4 a.m. Because I'm old, so I so my neighbors had their garages ransacked, and so we're doing things like, if you are up, then let's go and have a look. And so I did, and there they were, a young couple, a woman in a brown ponytail with a giant flashlight, checking all the cars. My point is, if you're looking at efficiency, then I'm asking each of the candidates to speak. That was my question about what are you specifically gonna do about rolling back the blanket rezoning, not just another vote that didn't go anywhere? Because, you know, myself and 12 of our neighbors went down to City Hall, and that was a waste of time. They were looking at their phones the entire time. Ridiculous. I want to know what's going to happen because we have schools. Why can we not, when I'm getting a little sheet, when they're stopping us coming in the Sun Valley Boulevard, stopping us, on Sun Hills Drive, and handing us little pieces of paper to say there's been an extraordinary amount of break-ins. Why is there not something, a town hall with the police in the school? Like, why not in the gym? Why not in this building? Why can we not have that regular dialogue directly with what you did, Landon? You know, you went around and you found out when you did the drive, the buddy drive.
Right.
Yeah, sorry. We like. If you're on the Facebook Sundance community page, you've seen it. If you're on that Facebook page, I would say at least once a week, we've got somebody being broken into, then there's all the tag-alongs from whatever street that's happening. It's happening all the time, and nothing is being done about it. Nothing.
It starts
So-
at the federal level.
I beg your pardon?
Crime policies.
I beg your pardon?
It starts at the federal level with liberal soft on crime policies in Canada. The police that completely hamstrung.
But I think it also comes down to,
I have a question, please.
yeah, so the question is, what specifically are you going to do to create an efficiency here where we, if Sundance is being targeted and has been for the past 2 years, how can we have dialogue other than calling 911? If you're actually there watching like I am. Like, I want real answers.
Yeah. That is an awesome question. And for me, going with the patrol officer, he wasn't a sergeant, but he had a good solution. And the biggest issue is that he brought this solution up to somebody a bit higher and it didn't go anywhere. And his solution was there's a lot of retired police officers right now that are doing nothing, right? And honestly, his thought was, let's rehire some of these retired police officers, get them into a vehicle, and right now, the city's got a lot of vehicles sitting in yards, not doing anything. Put them in vehicles, make them neighborhood captains, okay? And they can drive around at night. They don't have to have a gun or a badge, but they can at least be deterrent, right? And this was a solution from a patrol officer. And these are the people we have to talk to again that have real world experience, right? Same with nurses, same with teachers, people that understand how things operate. We have to get in contact with them. And I think neighborhood watch is a big thing. Everybody has stickers on their doors. I've seen thousands of them, but we don't use it anymore, right? I grew up in Vernon, and it's situated between Vancouver and Calgary, so it was a hub for crime. And the amount of times I used that neighborhood watch as a child because there was gunfires or whatever. I ran to the first house I saw that had that sign and the people let me in and sat down, called my parents or whatever, right? Like there's a, we need that sense of community back, right? We gotta work together as a community. And right now we've got overworked police officers, but we need to hire more of them, right? But we need to better train them. And then, like this police officer said, there's a lot of people that are retired right now that would like to get paid to keep our neighborhoods safe, right? And for me, knowing that there's somebody going around deterring crime, right now, police officers are focusing on, I think it was 12 of the 15 calls, like I said, or a big portion of them were mental health and or domestic. So let's get more people on the road actually keeping eyes on things. That's the biggest deterrent we could do for Midnapore and Sundance and like, people are using Fish Creek as a gateway. They'll park over at Douglasdale, they'll drive or bike across on electric bikes, they'll come into our neighborhood, steal a bunch of stuff, and then head back. If it's foggy out, hawks can't fly, right? If it's, if there's a drunk driver pull over, there's usually 2 or 3 police officers. Well, from midnight until 4 AM, there's sometimes 4 patrol vehicles for the same square footage of Regina, where they have 100 and we have 4 of them, okay? So if you're a criminal, you wait for a drunk driver, and if it be foggy out, and you've got free reign over the city, nobody watching you, okay? So we've got to get more eyes on the road, right? And for me, it doesn't necessarily have to cost a lot of money, right? I would love to literally drive around, which I've done a couple times, just drive around. And right now I put little geotags on all my tools, so if you do try to take them, I'll find them. But no, but we need to get more people on the roads, more people involved. I can tell you right now, we could probably do a census. If anybody in this room would want to be a part of a neighborhood captain that's being facilitated by some sort of sergeant who's been in the police force that has a walkie-talkie to the local patrol officers, right? We can get more eyes on the road. That's the one way to actually deter crime in this community again. And that's working together. So that's what I would.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
When you're talking like that, my family are police officers, have died because they were police officers. What I would like to know is you have ideas, any counselor, on how to do this for the city. What the hell is the provincial government doing? Because they're putting roadblocks for Calgary or any other city to bring in these officers. Because they're, how do we get these people? Yes, you can bring in the retired people, but there's not enough officers, like the first responders in general. But I'm blaming the provincial government putting stuff on that. Is that true or not? Because it sounds like there's a block here for us as Calgarians to get these police officers in place.
It's a money problem, right?
Yeah.
It is a money problem, and we could blame the provincial government, but right now, the system can't breathe. My wife's a nurse, right? She
Yeah.
works at, she used to work at emergency, and, you know, firsthand, you can tell you how many people use emergency as a primary care, right?
Yeah.
Right, and same with every schools, every single institution right now has too many people in it, right? With not enough people to take care of those people.
Absolutely.
Right? And so as a city council, right, we've got to work with the provincial government. And for me, this might be a radical thought, but we've got to turn down how many people are coming into our city right now, right? And that's through, in my opinion, Sweden did a good job at it, and that's preventing a lot of the incentives for people to come to Calgary until the system can breathe again, so that our police officers aren't overworked, so that our teachers aren't overworked, healthcare's not overworked. Right, because this is a growing city. People want to come here because it's somewhat affordable, and this, we want people to come here, but we want to also be able to survive in the same place they want to come to. So, yeah, sorry. And then, so for police in general, all I can say is with provincial government, I sat down with them and they looked over the legislation for the recall and they changed it, right? So for me personally, they've been somebody that you can work with. Right? But at the same time, it's a funding problem. Everybody wants to get paid. Everybody wants more money. Everybody needs more teachers, more nurses, more doctors.
So how do we get neighborhood watch back?
Well,
Because that sounds like,
I know how to do it. I've already got a plan ready for it.
there's already a framework for it that works all over the world,
But,
right?
but I'm talking about, if you, on the, I'm telling you specific. You know, I saw for 3 weeks, 9 breaking enters right by Sundance School. And who was looking at? Like, we're just talking on Facebook. Where is the engagement with police so that for those 2-3 weeks where they're targeting Free Street, that the police are there, like watching it? I mean, there were 3 men, husbands, who went out. Like, I'm gigantic, but I do not want to meet a criminal. Like, that's not my job. That's not who I am. I am not gonna face somebody that's out there. I'm not,
Well,
you know,
we
I
need
mean,
more
I called
eyes.
911 when I saw her with her on flashlight, but
Yeah, sorry, we need more eyes on the streets. That's the bottom line.
I think there's efficiencies that can happen, you know, like, there needs to be, like, I called actually the police. I said, are you watching the Sundance community page? Like, where's the connection between the public engagement? Because when, I mean, this is just me, but when I was the association president, we had a police officer that came to the monthly meeting. That doesn't happen anymore.
Well, they're overworked for that $30,000 worth of tools stolen from my van. They didn't even come do a report. I had to do it online, right? Because they don't do in-person reports anymore unless it's absolutely serious, right? So again, without the amount of people for our population, or the amount of police officers for our population, it's never, we're just gonna be catching up forever,
So
right? And
wouldn't
that's why we
this
have to.
be- Sorry to interrupt,
Yes.
but wouldn't this be a counselor's job for them all to work together to get to the provincial level? I'm not experienced, I'm not a politician.
I'm not sure if anybody's heard of the Alberta Police Act or the Calgary Police Commission. And I think this debate's been hijacked with something that council has no power to deal with. We have the Alberta Police Act and we have the Calgary Police Commission. They run the police.
But it's up to the citizens to get to the counselors so that they can put pressure on their people to make change. Again,
We've got about 2 years on that.
That's right. Sorry.
Okay, guys, so, and Peter Demong, I'm gonna ask you this question just out of fact check me, okay? Someone told me on my trails that a guy that works for the Parks Department for 20 years gets paid as much as a rookie cop.
Sounds good, right?
Okay, that's an efficiency issue. Okay, so that's where we can find more money to make sure that we have police on the ground. Okay, so neighborhood watch programs, obviously that's a very granular conversation that I'm happy to have at some other time. I like your idea of having retired guys, but I also don't like people out fighting crime who aren't armed.
Yes.
So what we need to look at is traffic patrollers. So the guys that are speeding or drag racing, they don't need to be armed, but they can go out and give issue tickets. And we can keep Calgary police officers on the beat dealing with the crime. So
I sure would want him to go to a speeding and then he wasn't armed, so you need to get your facts right.
well, I think that there maybe don't necessarily need to be a sergeant handing out tickets for people having driving infractions. And we can keep our city police officers actually taking care of crime. Because speeding is a crime, but I think break and enters and people like facing being hurt is a bigger problem.
Well, how do they defend themselves? Got them out there on the street, no weapons.
Well, Landon's suggesting that they go out and drive around communities and face,
That's not a good idea. Lawsuits, there's all kinds of problems.
well, tasers, I don't know, right? But this is what collaborators do. They sit at a table and they go, how about this, how about that? And then people come together and they go, you know what, that's a good idea, I like that idea, and you bring it together.
It's not about an expert, it's state, maybe. they're not good situations. It's not about the things, you can't just be people out there policing people and expect them.
Well, and I don't disagree, but it's what people do. They collaborate, they come up with ideas, okay? So the point of what I was saying is when we have parks guys getting paid as much as first-year police officers, that's a problem. That is an efficiency problem. That means that the city of Calgary is paying guys to deal with the parks more than they're paying cops. That's an issue for me as a citizen looking for public service, looking for public safety.
Thanks for your question, Ed. Like, editors here, I don't have an answer. I do know that I did a ride along as well. And, during our ride along, that was just before I got on the meter. Our ride along was focused on the open garages and stuff like that. We did get a domestic call and, he said we can go, but that's the rest of our night. The chain of command, how they handle information and stuff like that is something that is so beyond the civic level. Like, I don't fully understand, but I like, they have to handle that file from A to Z. So I don't have a direct answer to your question. The community resource officers do still come out to all the CA meetings. We're currently without one in our area. We're looking for a new one. Not we, but CPA District 8 is looking at appointing a new community resource officer for our area. But we've got good collaboration still with our community resource officers. And so through the community association, we bring stuff up as it comes in. But I don't know. I really don't know how we get a hold of everything that's happening, but there's ideas out there, and through collaboration and conversation, we'll figure something out.
I'll just be short. The numbers are dwindled here anyway, not that that doesn't make your guys' position here that want to hear to the end. But I would basically echo what Devin has mentioned. You know, these are issues that are complex. They can involve multi levels of government and legislation and laws. But I do think that we need to make our communities feel safe. And we need to make sure that our properties are being cared for. But, you know, in light of what everyone said, like, you know, Landon's point, like, let's get more eyes, right? If you see something that's not right, make it known. You know, Erin's point, let's get some neighborhood watch, which falls right into that same line of thinking. And, you know, and Devin's point is, you know, it is a complex issue and a complex matter. And, but for sake of time, I'm just gonna leave it at there. And, we're already at 3 o'clock. So I want to make sure that we're having our opportunity to do our closing statements, so.
Okay, thank you, candidates. There were quite a few cards submitted regarding communication, either through phone calls or emails. All I could suggest to people is FOIP, where you can express your concerns to the actual email provider. And there's also the calgary.ca website, and I think there's you can open a CSR on that website. One quick question here that hasn't really been addressed tonight, and I'd like the answers submitted as relevance to Ward 14 is the Calgary climate strategy that's supposed to go until 2050. That's affecting $87 billion worth of taxpayers' funds. So if the candidates want to speak on that, and then I'll give you a heads up if you want to prepare rebuttal statements to anything you might have heard here tonight. If you prepare your rebuttals, and then after the rebuttals, we'll go to closing statements. Thank you.
I'm not a subscriber to climate change. Let it just be known. If you're old enough, in the 70s and 80s, when I was younger, ice age is coming. Be prepared, ice age is coming, ice age is coming. A short 20 years later, we have global warming. Oh my goodness. And then, you know, it just lies, fabricated lies, fabricated lies. You say, oh, you don't believe in science. I do believe in science. And the science doesn't indicate what you're talking about. CO2, go take a look for yourself. CO2, 0.04% of our atmosphere. 0.04%. I adore carbon dioxide because it helps our plants grow, which provides more food. This is nonsense. It's just a fear. It's just fear. It's just intimidation. It's a control mechanism. And but they found their sweet spot, didn't they? Right? You go from ice age to global warming. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. Climate change. Oh, well, we found our sweet spot. Climate change. Well, I do believe in climate change. Yesterday was not as cold as it was today. Wow. Mind blowing. So I would, any DEI stuff, any climate emergency things, it would be turfed. I would be voting and advocating to turf that stuff because it's just wasteful use of taxpayers' money and burdens people that has no relevance in society. Even if it is getting warmer and getting colder, we adjust, right? Like, you know, if Al Gore, and when he did that inconvenient truth, whatever it was, you know, if the word if, you know, if the word if was in there, the number of times it was there, it could have received an Academy Award, right? All these conjectures and such like that. There are so many pieces of science out there that it infuriates me to think that people buy into this. And maybe some of you do, and maybe that will lose me votes. But I'm gonna stand on the truth because the truth doesn't move. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
All right, so my approach on the climate is, Gondek introduced it. I mean, I did look back and it was a part of her platform before she got hired, but she brought it in. Our own Ward 14 representative voted for it, right? But for me, proper governance is the best way to deal with any sort of policy, right? And for me, it's not putting 2 generations in debt. I know it's a grant, I know it's future money they're talking about, but it's still our money, right? And for me, I asked the mayor when I sat down for 15 minutes with her, I said, if you really thought or cared about a climate emergency, you would be taking the C train every single day, right? And she says, oh, well, I have security guards. They can take the C train too, right? And I thought, what a great leader to be screaming climate emergency while she's not doing anything in an emergency, right? And so for me, your furnace is 80% of your household, whatever, your energy, gas, whatever, right? So I even said to the mayor, I said, if you want to actually fix things, replace every furnace in the city and you will reduce carbon footprint. But she cares more about shipping in solar panels from China, which is a higher footprint than using the oil and gas we have in this province. Okay, so responsible governments can do more for our climate than Gondek has ever done, right? Getting more people on C trains, getting less cars off the road, or being more efficient with our light synchronizations. You can go down into, where is it? Down in California, you can go 32 miles through over 1,000 lights, not hit one of them if you go the speed limit. Right? In Calgary, you good luck going down McLeod or 16th Ave without hitting every single light. That's efficiency. That's costing us a lot of carbon footprints, right? So let's be smarter with governance, right? Build closer to C trains, build closer to shopping hubs, right? Leave our neighborhoods alone. And my culture looks after our land, right? We have to still be stewards of our land. We want beautiful trees. We want to be able to enjoy our parks, Fish Creek. We've got to work with the province on all this stuff, right? So for me, climate, no, I'm not going to spend and put my daughter into 2 generations of debt to make Gondek's profile look good. I'm sorry, right? I would rescind whatever, repeal it. I mean, if it's been over 6 months, we can just get rid of it like Devin said, then let's do it. And then we just start governing properly. It's as easy as that. Not everything's complicated. Occam's razor, the easiest solution's often the best. So let's just get back to just being smart with our money. Okay, yeah, DEI, all this stuff, it's just a waste of money down at City Hall. People want basics, and that's it. Everything else society can deal with. right? That's what we want again. I'm sorry, we've got to get our voice back at the table, and that's just to be worried about the basics, ensuring seniors actually have a place to live, not getting kicked out because tax increases go against their disability income or their pension income, right? We've got kids unable to get jobs. Well, I'm in the trades right now, and I'm having trouble finding a kid that wants to swing a hammer, right? Let's get kids in grades 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, again, working with the province. Our own MLA is the Advanced Minister of Education. Let's get industry into classrooms. Let's get kids being able to get affordable housing by working again, right? People are just so used to just making money from us. And again, that's the subsidy side of things. I'm done of paying for everybody else. I want my money to stay in my pocket. I want your money to stay in your pocket. Okay? And it's easy as that.
Yeah, the climate policy that the mayor put forward wasn't engaged with all the councillors, with stakeholders, so I agree with the group here as far as its validity and what it accomplishes. What we do have to watch for is we've got 3 active landfills in the city of Calgary. We are not getting a new landfill development permit from the province. We will not get a development permit from the Rocky View County or the Foothills County. So what we have right now is all we have. Calgarians have had a huge buy-in. I think we're years ahead of the curve as it relates to recycling product. Calgarians have bought in really, really well with the green bin and blue bin. We have to make sure that we continue to find people that will buy our recyclable product. We already have communities and counties that buy our compost, that the compost that we have, the farmers buy it and all that stuff. So we have to be very careful with what we have, or we'll find ourselves like Toronto, where you're hauling your waste across the border because we had no longer have a place to take our waste. You think your recycling fees won't go up when we have to truck garbage hours away? So we've got to be better stewards with what we have and continue on that path.
Okay, so I think that we can be both. I think that we can be stewards of the environment, and I think we can be fiscally responsible. They're not mutually exclusive, but we do need to be sensible about it. And when we talk about recycling and landfills, these are real things that we have to take into consideration, and they absolutely do affect climate. But we also need to look at efficiencies, okay? And so there are things that we can do as a city that will make us more efficient, that will also possibly lower our carbon footprint. So it's a dual need, okay? So as time goes on and things need to be changed, we can look at using and replacing with things that create less of a carbon footprint. We can do these things and be stewards of the environment. We can't just be climate change deniers, but we do need to be reasonable. When I look at the whole climate change program, so the 2050 pathways, it's called Pathways to 2050. And it seems to me, when I've done some research, and I could be wrong, that a lot of it is borrowed money. And that it also includes this $87 billion. It doesn't only just include this borrowed money, but it includes considering what Calgarians will spend as well to be more, I guess, climate friendly. So it is what it looks to me like it's pathways to unserviced debt into perpetuity. And it doesn't look like it's a very good story for my kids or my kids' kids. Because I'm not sure how you get a return on investment from climate programs. And so if we're going to invest that kind of money into climate, then that's what I want to see. I want to see there is a return on that. I also look at it as a very pragmatically. And when I look at climate programs, I also, because I'm a capitalist, I see it exactly for what it is. It's a new way to make money. And that is stuff that comes down from the top level of government down into our society. And we are being pushed and made to do and make changes that accommodate that agenda. That's just meant to make money. So there are things that we do need to do as stewards of the environment, because we do have grandchildren and great-grandchildren that want to live here. And we want to make sure that they have a landfill that's not going to be emitting gross things into Calgary. But we also need to remember that these things are created to get money. It's a money-making system. And so we just need to be sensible about how we move forward as stewards of the environment. And like I said, they're not mutually exclusive, but we do need to be sensible.
Okay, so we'll move on to rebuttal statements, or if you people want to combine rebuttals with closing statements. Okay, we're gonna go with combination. They can rebut anything they want to elaborate on here and make their closing statements. Peter, you're up.
Thank you. I just want to make clarification. I never, ever wrote Peter DeMong a personal email. So my closing remarks here. Thank you again, Ward 14 residents, for participating in your democracy and for joining us in this debate. I thank each of my colleagues as well here, or fellow candidates. With 13 other councillors and the mayor, I know I will not act alone, but I will be a strong, persistent advocate guided by conservative values and focused on infrastructure over ideology for the people of Ward 14. For over a year, I've been out in the community, again, talking to thousands of residents, listening to their concerns, and learning what truly matters to you. That experience has reinforced one thing. You want accountability, consistency, and leadership that listens. I may be newer to City Hall than some, but that's exactly what I can bring, is something different, not the status quo. So my attention to detail, my willingness to fearlessly ask the right questions to get the right answers, and my refusal to accept that's how it's always been done, are what set me apart. I'm not here to maintain the status quo. I'm here to challenge it and to make it work better for you and for the rest of Calgary. I'll continue to aggressively advocate for zero-based budgeting, applying surpluses to the tax pool for deserved tax relief, and ensuring accountability in every dollar spent. I'll fight for timely, consistent maintenance of roads, sidewalks, parks, and utilities, ensure meaningful community input in rezoning and development, and promote smarter, safer traffic management. Ward 13 deserves leadership that is honest, disciplined, and accountable, someone who listens, questions, and acts with purpose. I ask you both for your trust and your vote this election so that we can both move together past complacency and build a city that works efficiently, transparently, and responsibly. Together, we can make our great city leaner, smarter, and better. When you go to vote, remember, leaner with keener. I also want to make a point. Landon's mentioned that he's conservative, but there's an article on CBC that states that he actually voted for Rachel Notley's NDP in the last election. So not so sure how conservative he is, but I would just say, you know, and another thing that I wanted to mention as well not on a rebuttal side, but if you go to my website, you can go to my Facebook page. And on that Facebook page, I put a video together with some lovely ladies that live here in our ward, the homes at Homes with Homes, where I expose an issue with the declaration that they did for the $87 billion climate emergency. Essentially in there, they had, it's a 2-page document, that's it. just 2 pages. Whereas this, whereas this, whereas this, we want to declare a climate emergency. And a number of footnotes. If you take a look at that video, it's only 15 minutes. It's not a lot of your time, but the level of detail that's in there was basically overlooked by a number of counselors, 7 of the sponsoring counselors, so 7 sets of eyes at minimum. And I'm suspecting they may not have put together that package themselves. So another set of eyes. It says in there that in a 2020 citizen satisfaction survey, there's 2 questions on there regarding climate. Go and look at it yourself. You can look at the video and it'll show you. It's very easy. You go and look at that video. In the 2020 survey, you search for the word climate. Does not exist. False statement. They put it in there 3 times. Maybe it was a typo, but you can't typo something 3 times, in my mind. So I took a look and I said, well, maybe it's the 2021 survey. I went and looked, oh, there we go, 2 questions. One of the questions in there was on the notice of motion. The other question on the notice of motion did not even exist. And yet they said 79% of the people said that they wanted to act now. When you look at the actual citizen satisfaction survey, it's only 68%. How did they come up with 11%? Just pull that out of somewhere, right? Did anybody not even just read this? You're putting a burden on the entire Calgary city that's turns out to be $87 billion. And you're putting that burden on people. And you didn't even take the time just to, it took me like 4 or 5 minutes to find this out. It was not rocket science. So just go take a look at that video. I'd encourage you strongly to take a look at that video. And that's the level of detail, that's the level of questioning, that's the level of scrutiny that I like to bring and make sure that we're making informed decisions. Thank you, Leaner with Keener.
Look, it took a guy who voted for Rachel Notley to step up and finally say no to the lack of leadership in this city, okay? Right? Nobody else stood up, right? Everybody's yelling at their radio, right? But I put on my boots and I went to work, right? And honestly, I voted with my family, with my issues that were important to me, right? But since 2015, I didn't even step to the right. I was pushed to the right, okay? And I think you'd rather have somebody who's genuine leading you, right? That's gonna be honest with you. Never gonna hide anything from you guys, okay? This is my neighborhood. I want what's best for it, right? I want my daughter's future to be as important as mine. And that starts right now, okay? And that starts with integrity, right? And we talked about some stuff here tonight, and I think you guys got to think about that, right? During that recall, I had an opportunity to make a lot of money off of data, okay? And I spent, honestly, half the time collecting signatures, protecting that data from people. Some people took the very first opportunity to use data, and they used it, right? Integrity matters in this city, right? And that's where the accountability is going to come from, is that you guys will be able to trust your counselor to represent you no matter who you are, right? I don't care if you're left wing or right wing. I'm a conservative because that's who I am, okay? I've seen it what has happened in this city for the past 10 and 15 years under a left wing rule, right? And it's not any better. And that's not the way I want to run, right? And my hope is that there's not going to be any conservative or liberal decisions at City Hall. People want to know that the roads are going to be fixed, that they can get to their job. My wife worked at Peter Lougheed, and they wanted her to take the train to work at 11 p.m. at night. So they keep raising up the prices for parking. There's no way I'm going to let my wife take a 2-hour train ride and bus ride to Peter Lougheed. Okay, people want to know they can trust the system again. It doesn't take a left wing or right wing person to ensure that happens. But if it does come down to a vote, I'm going to vote fiscally conservative. That's just who I am. I don't want to spend more money. I don't want subsidies flowing out of my pocket anymore, right? Let's get the city out of the way of progress, okay? And that's cutting anything that doesn't produce some sort of value to us again, right? We've got seniors, I'm not joking. And again, part of my culture is to look after our elders, right? And my mom had to get a job at Winners folding clothes just to maintain a little bit of value in her life because she can't afford the taxes anymore. That breaks my heart. I don't want my mom or my aunties or whoever to have to keep working past their retirement age just to survive in this country anymore. Okay, so I'm gonna do anything and everything I can to ensure, whether it's a senior, whether it's a kid that wants to get into the trades, I want them to be able to have the same sort of lifestyle I was given growing up in Canada. And right now, the next generation is gonna be poorer than our generation. And if we don't do something now about it, it's not gonna get any better. So you guys give me a chance, I'll lead with integrity, okay? Yeah, I'm a fiscal conservative. We can go in the past all we want, but for me, it's the future. So if you want, I'll work with the province, I'll work with the federal government. Not only that, I sent an email to Gondek in the summer congratulating her on running again, because I said, hey, you and I are both running, and what happens if we both win, right? Do we want to spend the next 4 years fighting like everybody else has, or do we want to work together, find some common ground, and work from there, okay? And for me, that is bringing the city back into affordability status. And that's not going to be flooding it with millions and millions of more people, but is bringing what the people here are now, a bit of value to their taxes again. Okay, so I'm willing to work with any mayor. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Gondek, right? So people ask me how to vote for her, right? And I say anybody but Gondek, but if she wins, I want to ensure that we can work together, and I'm willing to do that, okay? Because to get a job done, it's going to take all hands on deck again. So you guys give me a chance. I won't disappoint you, and I'll lead with integrity, and I'll be there every single day. I won't miss any votes unless I'm deadly sick, right? But the reason I stood up here is probably the same reason everybody else stood up here. If you look at the voting record of our current leadership in Ward 14, it is identical to Gondek's. Okay, we need different. We need change. Experience in the same political realm is not going to be any better. Okay, we need young, we need fresh, and we need to do it now. Okay, you guys give me a chance. I won't disappoint you. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to thank everybody for sticking around. I appreciate those of you that did. My closing remarks are pretty simple. My wife's here, my kids are here, my mom's here, I've got friends and family here. My son's not here, he's UBC, and doubt he's listening. But I wanted to thank you. Thank you for the trust that you've shown us for 10 years. I appreciate staff that are here as well. Working with you has been a pleasure. And I look forward to continuing to do what we do. That's listening to Ward 14, delivering on the results that you guys have asked us for, keeping it simple, and moving forward. So thank you very much for spending your time with us today. Thank you to Landon and Erin for arranging this. Thank you, Wayne, for spending your time with us. I appreciate it. And the community hall for letting us have it here. And for all the volunteers that are in the back, helping out on your individual campaigns, thank you. If I'm not your cup of tea, that's fine. There's 6 candidates. Well, again, there's 4 of them. There are more. That's fine. You've got options. There's a lot of breath at this table. There's a lot of passionate people out there. And I thank you so much for what you've done for your community and showing up today and then sharing the stories of everybody that you've heard, however it fits you. Thank you so much. Thank you for all videotaping it. I appreciate it. And for the work that you guys have done leading up to the campaign, sharing the candidate bios. You guys have been a really, really valuable tool in sharing the information about this election, which really is dangerously low. So thank you so much to you guys, to everybody else. Have a good
Okay, well, also, thank you so much for coming. I know it's thinned out, but hopefully they dial in and they hear the rest of what happened here today. So I'm committed to toeing the community line, not the party line. Okay? I have a saying that I've been saying to my kids for years and years and years. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And those are words that I use throughout my whole life, have for a long, long time, and I believe them to be true. And no matter what level of government we're looking at, I really believe that nothing changes unless nothing changes. So with equal amounts of conviction and compassion, I promise to do this job with less politics, more community, and better management. I promise to be available, to listen, and to learn, and to collaborate. And I promise to never say, I know better than you, because I don't. And I will never say that. I promise to work with you and to tap into people that I believe know more than I do. Like I said, maybe it's these guys. Because I don't know everything, but I know that Ward 14 deserves proper representation for everybody. If I get elected, I'd like to get onto council, and I would like to work with council together, because it is a table, it is not a floor. And I would like to work with them to take the city of Calgary from greatness to excellence together. I don't think that anything's gonna get done if we have these partisan politics that sit on council. People need to have one mandate, and that is to serve Calgarians and make sure that their ward's needs are met. I get some questions out when I'm campaigning. One of them that I get all the time is, who's your vote, who's your pick for mayor? Now, a politician would say, I don't know, I'm not gonna say. But I say it every day, hundreds of times a day, well, dozens of times a day. Let's be realistic. Jeff Davison's my pick for mayor. Jeff Davison is the only independent conservative mayor. And even though I believe that municipal government should be nonpartisan, Calgary is ready for a conservative mayor. We need somebody who is going to look at our city with a corporate and fiscal lens and not an ideological lens. And so I hear about polls all the time and people say, oh my gosh, she's doing terrible. Guess what? I've been voting since I was 18 years old and I have never been called for a poll once. Have you? Has anybody here ever got a call from a poller?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I've not. So I don't believe the polls. And there's actually a really tragic story about Andre Chabot, who ran for mayor. And there were polls that came out that were incorrect. And people said to Andre, you know what, I can't vote for you because it's gonna split the vote and I gotta go over here and vote for this guy. Well, that polling company had to make a public apology to him for spreading false information. So you vote with your gut, you vote with your heart, you vote for the person that you know is gonna make a difference for you. And that's not just your mayor, that's also your councillor. On my website, since the day I launched, I've had every single candidate on my website. I have a tab called Ward 14 Candidates, and they're all there. And I use the sprawl as the source. And I've told everyone that I talk to, you need to go and do your research, and you need to find a candidate who's tied to your values. And just because I'm the first one that you saw, or the first one that you chatted with, don't just give me your vote. Do your research, make an educated vote. Because maybe I don't stand for the things that you do. So make sure that you vote for the person who does. And all 7 of us, I would say the 4 of us are pretty in line with most of the ways that we would like to see city council, how we would run our position on city council. The guys that aren't here today, I'm not sure why they didn't come. Somebody told me that maybe it's because they don't want to lose supporters. And maybe that's true, I don't know. But the point of democracy is that we get to choose. But we need to make those informed decisions and do our research. And we've all done a lot of work, various ways, to make our points here today that, you know, we want to be the next person that sits on council to represent Ward 14, to make sure that the city of Calgary is properly represented. The Ward 14 chair is with someone who is ready to take the city of Calgary from greatness to excellence. And so I want to thank everyone for coming today. definitely want to thank the Sprawl for all kinds of things that you guys do. I love the Sprawl cast. If you're ever looking for something to listen to, if you're looking for a podcast that maybe you haven't tapped into, the Sprawl cast is awesome. And I want to thank I'm going to call them my friends because I actually know all of these gentlemen well. I know them enough to say these are my friends. And I believe that their intentions to run for city council are also pure. And they want to do better for the city. So I hope that everybody enjoyed their afternoon and that you got all the answers that you were looking for. And thanks again to Wayne for helping us out with moderating. And it's a great day today. Thanks for having me.
Okay, candidates, thank you, Jeremy and Sproul. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Advance polls open tomorrow. Hopefully you can make a more informed decision on how you're going to vote. And of course, October 20th will be here before we know it. So have a good day.